satisfaction survey. They named #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation, #1 in professional development support, and #1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power Award information, visit jdpower.com/award.
The lifeblood of tech startups isn't just money. It's executive and technical skills. The kind of skills that companies need to build real products. And the skills that venture capitalist Chris Sugden of Edison Partners sees in the graduates that are coming out of New Jersey Institute of Technology.
The amazing thing about NJIT is their graduates, they have multiple offers on average, not just one. They're coming out with real skill sets that are immediately hireable and available to them. I think we see an understanding by the faculty and administration at NJIT that we've got to train and educate the whole student, not just their, one side of their brain. And I do think that's sort of part of the DNA today. There's practical and there's sort of academia, and merging those two together and understanding that if we're going to have our young people go get great jobs and have great successful careers, they've got to have both sides of their brain activated. And I think we see that with NJIT.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
For the independent bookseller who found you that first edition.
For the baker who brings the smell of freshly baked bread to your door.
And for the barista who never needs to ask your name.
We've all got a part to play.
Every little tap keeps your high street alive.
And helps your communities thrive.
So if you love where you live, shop small.
Shopping on your local high street can make a big difference. Shop small. Only by American Express.
At Lidl, we're big on all those Christmas parties. The season to be jolly. Try our Party Time Indian snack selection for only $2.99. And our Party Time mac and cheese bites for just $1.19. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores, exclusion I.
On 3, our unlimited data is actually unlimited, like for reals. That means you can scroll and scroll and scroll through all the Black Friday deals.
Because we have no speed limits, no data caps, and you'll be 5G ready at no extra cost.
Wow, so many savings.
Our Black Friday deals are now on. Save up to £480. Switch to 3, in-store or online. See 3.co.uk/unlimited-data. Savings on selected phones on 24-month contracts. Ends 5th of December. Terms apply.
If you're planning on driving this weekend, expect delays on the A406 North Circular Road. There'll be road closures between Tottenham and Edmonton from 10 p.m. on Friday the 22nd of November to 5 a.m. on Monday the 25th of November, while we carry out essential maintenance and repairs. All roads in the surrounding area will be extremely busy, so please allow more time for your journey and expect delays in the area. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Christmas is such a magical time of year for little ones. But why should the big kids miss out? This season, take the family to Santa's Wonderlab at West London Audi. You get to test drive the latest Audi models, and the children get to test drive the latest toys with Santa. There's something for the whole family. Visit santaswonderlab.com to find out more about how to register for your place at Santa's Wonderlab this Christmas.
Network of news and financial information 24 hours a day. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. This is Bloomberg Radio. Now, a global news update.
The Pentagon this morning is denying a report in South Korea's biggest newspaper that the U.S. is considering withdrawing 4,000 troops from that country if they don't agree to pay more to have U.S. troops on South Korean soil. In Hanoi, Defense Secretary Mark Esper said, quote, "We're not threatening allies over this." House impeachment investigators are scheduled to hear from two key witnesses today, both described as alarmed by the way President Trump and others were conducting foreign policy in Ukraine. Phil Mattingly's on Capitol Hill reporting yesterday's testimony from Ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland has buoyed House Democrats.
No final decision has been made yet, but they have what they need. Gordon Sondland gave them first-person testimony, a first-person witness who had conversations with President Trump, who had conversations with Rudy Giuliani. That was what they had been looking for.
China inviting Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and top U.S. negotiators to Beijing to try to revive those stalled trade talks. Stock futures are down slightly ahead of the opening bell on Wall Street. I'm Michael Toscano.
If you're at the top of your profession, you're listening.
Are those gains all going to the elite?
Bloomberg Surveillance.
Does it spread beyond manufacturing?
Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrell. Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. It is 6:47 on Wall Street and futures this morning. Little change to lower. Let's go to the first word breaking news desk for today's morning call. Here's Bill Maloney. Bill, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Good morning, Karen. Futures are quiet right now. Dow futures down a point. S&Ps are a little changed, and Nasdaq futures fall by 4. The U.S. 10-year yield at 1.75%. Gold is down 3, and Hong Kong fell 1.6% overnight. While European markets are also under pressure, led by declines in the UK. Back in the U.S. on the economic front at 8:30, Philly Fed initial jobs claims, and at 10 o'clock, leading index and existing home sales. After the bell last night, PayPal will buy online coupon site Honey for $4 billion. And regarding earnings this morning, look for Macy's to report around 8 a.m. In other news, Trump is expected to sign the bill supporting the Hong Kong protesters, and the Wall Street Journal reported that China's chief negotiator invited the U.S. team for new talks. In deal news, LVMH is said to have offered Tiffany $130 per share, and CNBC said that Schwab is in talks to buy TD Ameritrade. Wrapping things up, Duke Energy was raised to overweight over at Barclays. Live from the First and Breaking News Desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Karen?
Bill, thanks. To hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg, type squawk on your terminal, SQUAWK. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Now here's Michael Barr with more on what's going on around the world. Michael.
Karen, Democratic presidential contenders mostly avoided big fights on the Atlanta debate stage last night. The 10 candidates did take jabs at each other's policy differences on climate change and health care. The House Intelligence Committee will wrap up its public impeachment inquiry for the week with a testimony later today from former White House National Security aide Fiona Hill and political consular at the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, David Holmes. PG&E is restoring power to tens of hundreds of thousands of Californians that went dark early Wednesday in an attempt by the company to keep power lines from starting fires. In the NBA, the Knicks lost, the Nets won along with the Wizards, the Celtics, and Warriors lost. In the NHL, the Rangers beat the Capitals 4-1. Week 12 of the NFL begins tonight. The Texans host the Colts. Finally, from daybreak on the Bloomberg, Nike's going all in on hands-free footwear. After announcing a self-lacing shoe in January, it's now investing in Hands-Free Labs, a company that essentially makes loafers that go on and off without a lot of fumbling. And they're very popular with those with disabilities who have trouble tying them or just don't like laces. Nathan Nike says the technology has the potential to remove barriers to playing sports.
Very interesting development, but you got to hope those things don't slip off if you plan to bring them to the basketball court. If you're running up and down, you usually try to tie those things pretty tight, don't you?
Yes, you want them really tight. And, you know, it can happen, but I think they got that squared away, I hope.
And we'll see how it goes.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll tie it up. Global News, 24 hours a day. See what I did? On air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. Don't judge me. Michael Barr, this is Bloomberg, Nathan.
All right, Michael, thank you. It is 6:50 on Wall Street. We are live from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studios. It's time to check what's going on in D.C. Among the top stories, President Trump expected to sign the bill that Congress passed unanimously supporting Hong Kong protesters despite threats from China. The U.S. denying it is thinking of pulling some troops from South Korea amid a dispute over how to pay for those forces, and dramatic impeachment testimony before the House Intelligence Committee from a GOP donor-turned-ambassador who says everyone was in the loop on a Ukraine quid pro quo. Also making news this morning, developments in Atlanta where the Democratic presidential debate had impeachment front and center. We're joined live now by Bloomberg Chief Washington correspondent Kevin Cirilli. Post-debate, in Atlanta, outside the Tyler Perry studios. Kevin, good morning. Given the fact that the impeachment hearings have gone into the public phase, it's probably no surprise that the proceedings against President Trump were a major elephant in the room last night.
They were. I mean, just anecdotally speaking, the hearing was literally still going on in the hour leading up to the start of the 5th Democratic presidential debate. And the talk of the spin room was not the debate, but Gordon Sondland's testimony. And in terms of what this means as it regards to impeachment, according to my Republican sources on Capitol Hill, Nathan, I don't really see the developments of yesterday putting the president at risk of losing Republican support. That said, an increasing number of Republicans are saying privately, somewhat more publicly, that they are uncomfortable with the president's conduct, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they would be comfortable with voting to remove him from office.
I want to get to more on the impeachment proceedings in a moment, but let's focus on what happened last night on the debate stage. Going in, we had a lot of thought that Pete Buttigieg was going to be a target now that he's the front runner in Iowa, and it didn't seem like that panned out last night. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I think also just sort of the rumblings in the spin room were, is this a debate or was this just opening statements? There wasn't that many contentious moments during last night's debate. Everybody thought that Pete Buttigieg, who has ascended to the top of the polls in early caucus and primary states of Iowa and New Hampshire, that he would maybe go after Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. Actually, the most contentious moment came against him and Tulsi Gabbard as they drew a contrast on each other's foreign policy visions, and Tulsi Gabbard still not a top-tier candidate according to the polls. Beyond that, it was a really play it safe mode for a host of different candidates. Senator Elizabeth Warren, most notably, that was the first debate that she had, Nathan, since releasing her Medicare for All plan. And she defended it, but it wasn't the type of contentious rhetorical back and forth that we're used to seeing at some of the other debates.
And you would think that with a focus on Medicare for all, healthcare has been such a big topic of discussion at pretty much all the Democratic debates that the economy would be more of a focus among the questioners to the candidates. Did we see much discussion of the economy at this debate?
A little bit. That's a great point. I mean, the economy did come up to some extent. I mean, we didn't really get into the specifics of trade war policies. I think at one point Buttigieg totally dodged the question with regards to farm subsidies, in which he said that he would not want to have subsidies for farmers, but he wouldn't get rid of them. But his plan wouldn't use them. I couldn't really follow his response, to be honest, on farm subsidies. Beyond that, Senator Amy Klobuchar, a Democrat from Minnesota, she also made the case that her economic vision, a more centrist vision, would be able to win over some of the Midwestern states. So it was interesting, but I can tell you this much. In the spin room, Senator Klobuchar said to me that she at one point just wanted to raise both of her hands and just get in there on policy, and that she was hoping that there would have been more of an emphasis on policy instead of some of these other water cooler conversations.
Yeah, you would think a lot of the lower polling candidates like Amy Klobuchar would be looking to get some digs in. Did you see anyone in the lower tier break through last night? I mean, the first primary is going to come up in February. It's just a couple months away. A lot of these candidates are running out of time to break through.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, candidly, so much of the focus yesterday from the political realm was on impeachment. And beyond that, just to go further with that, these lower tier candidates and top tier candidates who are in the Senate are going to have to navigate impeachment in the Senate and being on the campaign trail. And just the final point, this is the 5th Democratic presidential debate. There's still 10 candidates plus other candidates who just got in the race. I mean, there's so many candidates that it's very difficult for someone who isn't at the top tier to stay there. And so, look, did Klobuchar have a good night last night? Yeah. Did Harris have a good night last night? Yeah. Did it change the trajectory of the race? No.
Bloomberg Chief Washington Correspondent Kevin Cirilli with us from Atlanta. Thank you for this. Much appreciated. We know you're going to have much more on the race and impeachment on Bloomberg Sound On. Comes up today at 5 p.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg Radio in Washington, Bloomberg 99.1 and 105.7 FM HD2. Karen.
All right, Nathan, thank you. While U.S.-China trade is taking center stage for markets, it's also front and center at the Bloomberg New Economy Forum in Beijing. We're hearing a lot of commentary on the issues dividing the world's two biggest economies. Bloomberg's Selena Wang is there and brings us more now. And Selena, what are you hearing so far?
We've had a lot of big guests here, and a lot of the focus from the delegates is how these two economies, which have clearly a breakdown in trust, can really move past those issues and work together to solve some of the most critical issues of our time, whether that's healthcare or climate change. We just heard from Henry Kissinger, so I just want to highlight a few things he just said. He said technological advances have accelerated China's rise and shrunk the power gap with the United States, meaning both sides may be unprepared for how to deal with this new reality. He also says the consequences of the U.S.-China conflict are potentially greater than the U.S.-Soviet rivalry because the two countries have a larger weight together in the global economy. And he also says a hot war between the two would be a catastrophe even greater than the destruction Europe wrought on itself in the 1900s. So we've been hearing for a lot of big guests, Goldman Sachs CEO as well in an earlier panel, Kevin Rudd. We've heard everything ranging from how China can deal with its balance of market-led and state-led economy all the way to what it is exactly that China and U.S. can do to get past this technology decoupling. So big issues to tackle here. A lot of hope and optimism mixed with fear about what really could happen if things turn for the worse when it comes to U.S.-China relations.
All right, Bloomberg, Selena Wang in Beijing. Thank you, Selena. We are watching shares of Macy's this morning. They were down as much as 10% in early trading, now trimming declines a bit, down 5.5%. It reported earnings, and it cut its year-own plus license comp sales view. It lowered the annual sales and profit guidance, as I said. Profit, though, did look like it beat analyst estimates. Adjusted profit coming in at 7 cents a share in the third quarter, and analysts were looking for a loss of about 1 cent a share. We'll continue to watch those shares as the day goes on. And Bloomberg Surveillance is straight ahead with Tom Keene, Jonathan Farrell, and Lisa Abramowitz. For Nathan Hager, I'm Karen Moscow, and this is Bloomberg.
'Tis the season to be hunched over your laptop. Not on our watch. In real life, you can feel your senses and your baskets. Feel all the sights, sounds, lols, and OMGs. Wear laughing emojis on actual smiley faces. Battery's running low. Take the kids to Santa's Grotto. In real life, you can find just the right present using the most advanced search engine in the world. Your eyes. We heart in real life. Brent Cross, London. Free parking for all sleighs and cars.
I love Black Friday. Busy shops, crazy people, average deals. It's so much fun.
Said no one ever. So be savvy and do Black Friday the easy way with Smarty. Grab a huge 100 gig data SIM for just £17 a month on the Mega Plan. And with no credit checks, speed restrictions or contracts tying you down, you can kick back with the best Black Friday deal around. Now that's Smarty. Search Smarty Mobile to find out more, but hurry, as this deal won't be around for long. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
At Lidl, we're big on those little reasons to be jolly. Like our delicious Favorina all-butter mini Stollen bites for just $1.99. And 6 deluxe mince pies for just $1.35. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores, exclusion I.
It's never nice missing out. But millions are doing just that by having a current account that doesn't pay them any interest on their hard-earned money. TSB is here to help. They offer interest to all their Plus account customers for no monthly fee. So if you're one of the millions of people who are missing out, talk to TSB. Terms and conditions apply.
Capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Surveillance Economics.
The good news is the economy is strong. The bad news is the economy is strong.
Financial crises take a really long time to recover from.
Finance.
The strong job market's pulling people back in.
You can't have for very long, monetary union without a fiscal union.
Investment.
What we preach is extreme diversification.
It's hard to have sustained productivity without capital investment.
Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrell on Bloomberg Radio.
From New York City for our audience
worldwide, good morning. Good morning. This is Bloomberg Surveillance. Coming up on the program, President Trump set to sign the bill supporting Hong Kong protesters. China pushing ahead with trade talks. American officials receiving an invite to Beijing. Supporting equities, leaving investors lost somewhere between cautious optimism and confusion. From the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio, hello Thursday. Here is your Thursday morning price action with equities going absolutely nowhere. We are unchanged on S&P 500 futures after the biggest one-day move lower in around about a month. Yes, really, that is what yesterday was. In the Treasury market, yields unchanged to 175 on a US 10-year. On a 2-year note, in and around 160 at 1.586% and up a single basis point. In foreign exchange, the shape of things in G10 shaping up as follows. A dollar that's just a little bit softer on the day. The euro firmer by 0.1%. Euro dollar drifting higher. Alongside Tom Keene, Lisa Abramowitz, I'm Jonathan Ferro, and Lisa front and centre once again. The president said to sign this bill, according to reports coming from Washington, supporting Hong Kong protesters, yet the Chinese are still pushing ahead with trade talks.
Which raises a question of whether the economic consequences is really the issue here, and whether China knows that they have more to lose. But it does seem like there is a push toward some kind of truce.
The Wall Street Journal reporting this morning as well that China has invited US officials to Beijing for trade talks. Unclear at this point as whether that invitation has actually been accepted. For the market, though, that gave equities just a little bit of a lift, Lisa, following the confusion. And my line this morning really is we are stuck between this cautious optimism of the last couple of months and total confusion around issues like trade.
Meanwhile, a tough line still from the state-sponsored media in China, with Hu Zhijin saying he is the head of the Global Times. Few Chinese believe that China and the U.S. can reach a deal soon. China wants a deal, but is prepared for the worst-case scenario of prolonged trade war.
A ton of things to get through this morning, including a potential tie-up in the brokerage business as well. We'll bring that to you a little bit later on the program. I'm really pleased to say that joining us now on the phone from Paris at the OECD headquarters is Laurence Boone, OECD chief economist. Laurence, great to have you with us. You're just out with your year ahead, trimming the outlook, but seeing a much bigger problem potentially brewing for the decade ahead. Just walk us through what you're seeing.
So that's true. We've actually projecting growth to remain stuck at 2.93% for the next 2 years. And that's mostly due to all the uncertainty related to the trade tensions, but also to China economic slowdown and much beyond that geopolitical and political economy uncertainty.
Laurence, how do you make a year ahead call? What's the base case around trade? How difficult is things this year?
Well, the difficulty with the trade tensions is that they're very focused on a few tariffs, which have a direct effect on the price of imported goods. So consumers pay higher for what they buy. But the biggest effect is the uncertainty that's creating, because if you're a firm today, you don't really know where you're going to launch your next investment, because these trade tensions jump from countries to countries to start, and then at heart there is a profound dissatisfaction with the way that a lot of support to government subsidies, protection of intellectual property, technology transferred, all this is mingled within this discussion, and they are very deep-rooted problems that will take a long time to address.
Right, although you are seeing a guarded optimism heading into 2020. A lot of economists and investors seeing a resurgence in the global economy. Can you square that with the deteriorating outlook from the OECD?
So I think there are two things to distinguish. If you get an agreement on what's called the phase one between the US and China, then yes, market will have some temporary relief and cheer up. But as I was saying, the issues surrounding trade are much beyond what we are seeing here. And they have to do with the way that digitalization has changed trade and commercial exchanges. They have to see with all the subsidies and form of government supports that are there, which are undermining the level playing field. And these issues will take years to resolve, especially if we are just focusing on bilateral tariffs. It's like if you were focusing on the top of the iceberg when the iceberg below the sea level is growing.
Laurence Boone with us with OECD, and we will continue. I want to bring to your attention a headline just coming out, this from the Financial Times. Louis Bacon plans to shut more capital hedge fund. For anybody in global Wall Street, the heritage of Louis Bacon has been extraordinary, and to see that announcement as really time moving on, he will shut more capital hedge fund. We'll have much more on that through Bloomberg surveillance this morning. Laurence, your predecessor at OECD, Catherine Mann, now at Citigroup, as at OECD, was quite strident about the roll-up that we're seeing in world business because of slow economic growth. She would speak of scale and the idea of monopsony, the idea of monopoly coming into play. We're seeing that in America this morning with a merger in discount brokerage reported of Schwab and TD Ameritrade. Do you in Paris still believe that we will see a roll-up of global business because of slow economic growth?
So there are things threatening globalization, and that's the trade tension that we have discussed, and it's also the possible tax fragmentation that the OECD is trying to address. And that relates really well to how our business is going to thrive in tomorrow's world. And for that, we need more certainty, more predictability, and a better level playing field. And that means, ending this tit-for-tat tensions on tariff. It also means concluding, as we expect, the international negotiation on the taxation of multinational enterprises. As you know, we've been working on this for a while now, and we really think that we can conclude an agreement in 2020. That would change this pessimism of globalization.
I mean, what this comes down to, and Laurence Boone, I'm going to cite here Meghdad Desai at the London School of Economics, which is all of economics is about profitability. Given the OECD view, how you extend your timeline out to 2001, will there be a dearth of I'll get it out. 3, 2, 1. Will there be a dearth of profitability as we have slower economic growth?
Well, that's one of the things we're really concerned about. If you stay with very sluggish growth for a long time, then there will not be enough revenues there will be not enough growth to raise revenues, and that applies to people as much as it applies to businesses. And also, if you want profits to be lifted, you need investment, which is why we're particularly insisting on the need for government to level up public investment, because that's one of the main impediments to the implementation of private sector investment plans.
Laurence Boone, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. Head of Economics, the OECD here. And John, one of the distinctions in a huge report is France actually lifts. Everything else is pretty soggy, and France gets it. What are you working on over there? Are you focused on the Toronto Maple Leafs?
No, I'm really not. Look, honestly, my take at the moment is that there is a real year-over feel to the conversation of the last few weeks. Yes. I just don't think the year is over. So these 2020 outlooks for me, I don't know how much I should pay attention to them. Widely held assumptions that a phase one trade deal will happen, December 15th tariffs will go away, the incoming data will get better. I think those calls, they're consensus calls, and they are challenged just a little bit more every single day.
And Joe Quinlan joining us here with a call, which is, I'm going to say it's somewhat consensus, and Jan Hatzius is out with that call, again, looking for a glimmer of lift to the market. And that's sort of the theme right now.
The consensus trades heading into 2020 already, though, losing steam. The reflation trade, the concept of a steepening yield curve, flatten yet again.
I think you're dead on, and this goes to tomorrow, folks. The real yields, see it at 1 p.m. on Bloomberg Television. John, the yield structure's changed this week, and nobody's noted.
As Lisa mentioned, we've been flatter for the previous 6 days, and we're a little bit flatter again in today's session. I just wonder whether the moves of the last couple of months have been a total head fake. Morgan Stanley's Matt Hornback asked that question just last week. Is it a range break or a head fake? And I think we're grappling with that question still this morning.
And again, with news flow, and just to review this over the last number of hours, with a lot of American executives in Beijing at the Bloomberg New Economy Forum, China comes out with a set, and John, not just one set of headlines from different disparate parts of the Beijing apparatus, looking for Mr. Lighthizer to travel to Beijing, and also saying we're not going to I saw one headline that they're really not going to execute a major fiscal plan.
Vice Premier Liu He reportedly cautiously optimistic in the Wall Street Journal reporting that they've invited US officials officials over for trade talks. And Lisa, we're at this really delicate moment, and our team at Bloomberg News has reported on this, at this delicate moment where we might be approaching collapse, yet we're also approaching the conclusion of talks.
There was such a good sort of analysis of this, looking at the Hong Kong issue and how it's percolating up, how President Trump is going to sign this bill, how China so far seems to be stepping back, but it is a dangerous situation.
Equity futures unchecked this morning. Thanks, Tom. It's usually you that does this.
Let's get the news with Michael Barr. Michael Barr.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom. The final witnesses in this week's impeachment hearings have stories to tell about how the Trump administration conducted its Ukraine policies. An official at the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, David Holmes, is expected to recount today how he overheard a phone call by President Trump asking about investigations by Ukraine. A national security advisor, Fiona Hill, has told lawmakers about a White House meeting that touched on investigations. Democrats in last night's presidential debate found themselves refighting familiar issues, especially whether the party should get behind Medicare for all. Former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger said the U.S. and China were in the foothills of a Cold War. Kissinger warned during the New Economy Forum that the conflict could be worse than World War I if left to run unconstrained. Global news 24 hours a day on air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg Time.
Michael Barr, thanks so much. Huge news flow this morning. Again, Schwab and Ameritrade, a scheduled merger reported by CNBC. Futures -2. Stay with us worldwide. This is Bloomberg.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their business strategically. Yet, the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating platform, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
I'm Steve Meyer, president of SEI's Investment Manager Services. At SEI, we understand the emerging forces that will define success for asset managers and what firms will need to compete tomorrow. That's why we continually optimize SEI's global operating platform. If your business requires greater agility, our advanced technology, integrated best-in-class systems, and multi-asset expertise can be your catalyst for business transformation.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
When Harlequins take on Leicester Tigers, it's always a big game. But this year, it's the big game. Hosted at Twickenham, you can expect fireworks on the field and off it. Pre-kick-off, enjoy music, entertainment and a truly incredible atmosphere. Then watch two Gallagher Premiership rugby giants go head-to-head. Tickets from just £17 children, £27 adults. Go to tickets.quins.co.uk or search Big Game 12. Kick-off 4:30pm, Saturday 28th of December, Twickenham Stadium.
'Tis the season to be hunched over your laptop. Not on our watch. In real life, you can fill your senses and your baskets. Feel all the sights, sounds, lols, and OMGs. Wear laughing emojis on actual smiley faces. Battery is running low. Take the kids to Santa's Grotto. In real life, you can find just the right present using the most advanced search engine in the world. Your eyes. We hunt in real life. Brent Cross, London. Free parking for all sleighs and cars.
It's hard to find a children's gift which doesn't have a short shelf life. They'll eat all the chocolates in 5 minutes, finish their video games by the end of the week, and grow out of their trainers before you know it. So instead of buying them something just for Christmas, buy them something that's for life. Premium bonds from NS&I. Every month they'll have the chance to win cash prizes. And now you can buy premium bonds for any child. Start their savings journey from just £25. Search Gift Premium Bonds to find out more.
At Lidl, we're big on all those Christmas parties. The season to be jolly. Try our Party Time Indian snack selection for only $2.99. And our Party Time mac and cheese bites for just $1.19. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
Influential conversations from Bloomberg Television. Here's Taylor Riggs.
Demolition on the future TSX Broadway building in the heart of Times Square begins. The $2.5 billion project is led by real estate developer L&L Holding Company. In an exclusive interview, Chairman and CEO David Levinson tells Bloomberg's Viviana Hurtado 5G technology will stream content at record speeds.
There are active discussions about 5G going on right now for Times Square. I can't get into the details of it, but this will be one of the most robust areas of 5G. And this platform that we have here and some of our neighbors are going to be participating in that 5G experience. So when all of that really happens, it's going to be happening here at the grandest scale in the world.
Is it going to be ready around 21,
oh, yes.
2022?
It'll be ready and we'll be ready.
You need cell towers. Talk to us about what that's like when you get into the zoning aspects of it and the local politics of getting something like that accomplished and done so that 5G can be here and allow TSX to be what you envision it to be.
The community, the authorities, the Times Square Alliance, our neighbors, all are preparing for that. This building is essentially an antenna to broadcast and receive information.
Hear more interviews like this one on Bloomberg Television, streaming live on Bloomberg.com and on the Bloomberg mobile app, or check your local cable listings. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow, and U.S. stock index futures are little change this morning as investors weigh the latest trade developments, including a bill from Congress supporting Hong Kong protesters that could complicate a deal with China. And we check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg. S&P futures, they're down about 2 points. Dow futures down 17. NASDAQ futures are down 8. The 10-year Treasury is down 132nd. The yield 1.75%. Yield on the 2-year 1.58%. NYMEX crude oil down 0.1% or 5 cents at $56.96 a barrel. COMEX gold down 0.25% or $3.70 at $14.70.50 an ounce. The euro is at 1.1083 against the dollar. The yen 108.60. The British pound 1.2953. And multiple reports this morning that Charles Schwab is in talks to buy TD Ameritrade. A deal could be announced as soon as today. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom, John, and Lisa.
Thanks so much, Karen. What an extraordinary day, extraordinary news flow. We're seeing Chinese headlines at the Bloomberg New Economy Forum. We thank Ambassador Haas for really timely comments there as well. Right now, Joe Quidlin, who's with us with decades of experience at Merrill and Bank of America, private bank, and out, of course, with investment perspective. But, Joe, you and I are going to wax philosophical here. Remember the first day discount brokerage showed up? You and I were like, what?
What? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
We can't do it ourselves, but it was super cheap, and we all,
They're never going to last. John, is discount brokerage a big deal in London?
FX brokerage. People like to trade foreign exchange.
Yeah, very well said.
Way.
We don't do that. But it was Charles who?
Right.
Remember that?
First, it'll open a whole new frontier for retail investors.
People laughed for about 6 months until, so here we are with a mating here, and it goes to your work on a broader investment strategy to slower economic growth, challenge profitability. When in doubt, you have to mate. That's all it's about.
You have to look for that growth. Organically is very tough given the demographics, slower growth, lack of productivity. So, what's surprising me, Tom, 10 years after the crisis, so to speak, we are starting to see some of the financial companies thinking about, marrying or at least observing each other. And
what comes on, this is TD Ameritrade, folks, of course, Joe Ricketts' firm, to be taken out by Schwab. It is presumed, it is not announced yet. CNBC reporting this and Fox Biz putting a $26 billion number on it. But it comes down to bring it over to John's world of yield, lower nominal GDP, some form of disinflation and growth that just doesn't get it done, right?
Right. It doesn't get it done. It goes back to what we talked about earlier, Tom, like wanting and needing the scale. So if you don't have scale, you can't drive productivity or have the margin expansion. So this is about scale and reaching for that type of, not organic growth, but kind of a merged growth.
I want to challenge the idea that this is simply a case of slowing growth and really raise the question of an existential crisis facing the asset management and brokerage businesses. People want stuff for free. And how long can mating and scale sustain businesses that ultimately are going to zero fee models?
Well, I would push back a little bit. People want it for free because we've got a massive transfer of wealth coming in this country, like $9-10 trillion. And in the private wealth space, they still want that service. They still need tax strategy. So I think your average retail investor does want it free and it's expecting it free. But there's also part of the industry where I still want to have access to specialty asset management. I still want access to credit. I want the full line of concierge services. So I do think there is a segment that wants it free. But when you look at $10 trillion in inheritance being passed generationally, that's not going to be done on a retail wire.
Do you see people willing to pay for that? All the services that you just described?
They're willing to pay for it, but because of the competition, yes, the margins are coming down, absolutely, which means anyone like Bank of America or anyone in the industry has to be more productive, has to have the right products in place and drive that growth.
End up in this really strange world where companies like Charles Schwab and TD Ameritrade end up making money like little banks. A little bit of candy for the deposits they have, taking a little bit more candy on doing other things with the money. What do you think of that as a business model, that all of these companies just get bigger and start behaving like little banks?
Like little banks. I work for a big bank, so I'll preface it with that. We'll see if it works or not. But yes, it's part and parcel of the lack of growth, right? It's part of that. Like my model isn't producing what I expected in terms of revenue or profits. What do I do next? And rarely is that sustainable, and or is it being set up for more mergers?
Got to talk about your broader market strategy as well. I said at the top of the program, investors at the moment seem to be lost between cautious optimism and total confusion over everything around China. How do you have any kind of optimism going into next year without any real clarity on some of these big issues?
Well, look at earnings. Third quarter earnings weren't that bad. They're better than expected. The economy is chugging along at 2%. It's not great, but we're in 11th, 12th year of the expansion. The Chinese economy is growing at 5% plus. Europe is looking slightly better. Let's put it this way, Europe is looking less bad. So globally, we're bottoming out. The manufacturing numbers are getting better, but it's too early to jump with both feet. So, whether it's healthcare, technology, robotics, automation, there's places to put money to work.
Are you sustaining U.S. dominant investment? Do you still believe U.S. large cap will lead after an up? What are we up, 24%, 22%?
I think, Tom, it'll become more balanced next year between more developed Europe, Japan, and then the emerging markets. But, the emerging markets, we've been waiting for
exactly.
that.
What's the is it China trade clears?
I think it's China trade code, but the emerging markets, I would just not throw that term out of the vocabulary and look more specific at sectors, at countries, technology versus consumption. That's the issue. That's the key issue.
This has been wonderful. Joe Quinlan, thank you so much for being with us with a ton of breaking news today. Can I just mention, John, I don't know, should I go to IG or CMC Markets or Swiss Quote? When we're in London, should I just set up an FX account as a good way to lose money?
Me to endorse
why don't I just go over and spend money at Gucci instead
I've always said the biggest difference for me between the United States and the United Kingdom and markets is that when you get into an Uber in the United States, they ask you about things like Bitcoin, about tech stocks, about things like that.
Amazon, Apple.
Let me tell you, when I used to get the car to work in the morning in London, really early.
OMG, it's John Farrow.
Literally, do you know what the question was? Dollar yen.
Really?
Always came down to foreign exchange.
This is so
things
true.
Like dollar yen,
so what do they think
dynamics, all those kind of things.
What do they think about the fact that sterling is trading like an emerging market currency?
I haven't been there for about a year, so I'll ask them. We will ask them that.
I promise you this. John is paid in doubloons.
Tom and I, when we're in London in a couple of weeks' time, we'll get in the back of a cab and we'll do a foreign exchange segment just for Twitter. We'll do a little video. All right, and we'll play it out.
But I made this clear. London is the FX capital of the world. We say good morning to all of you. Huge news flow this morning. Oh, by the way, Macy's showing negative 10%. Stay with us. This is Bloomberg. Good morning.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. Macy's latest results are in, and investors don't like what they see. Shares are lower before the opening bell. The department store chain missed estimates in the latest quarter and cut its full-year forecast. Multiple reports today say Charles Schwab is buying TD Ameritrade for $26 billion. A deal would create a firm with about $5 trillion in combined assets. After announcing a high-tech self-lacing shoe in January, Nike is now investing in Utah-based Hands Free Labs, which specializes in footwear marketed as the world's first hands-free shoes. Hands Free's footwear gives the appearance of laces and is meant to be especially effortless. Nike is not alone in pushing into the so-called adaptive clothing, apparel that can be easier for people with disabilities to wear. Tommy Hilfiger released an adaptive clothing line a couple of years ago. Stock futures are lower, Dow futures down 13. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then go to Babbel.com, download the app, and try it for free. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just go to Babbel.com and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com and try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
Where would we be without you? The butchers, the bakers, the digital future makers. From BLTs to MOTs, you're the companies that keep us all going. So mind your business, London. And so will we, with our £14 billion lending fund to help small businesses. Because deal or no deal, from Downing Street to the High Street, every business is part of something far, far bigger. Find out how HSBC could help you at business.hsbc.uk/mindyourbusiness. All lending subject to status.
Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, work from home on a Friday jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, Soho jobs, Shoreditch jobs. Keep me away from the central line jobs. Banking jobs, building jobs, never ever boring jobs. Small jobs, big jobs, lunch in Borough Market jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
Make their Christmas wishes come true. Whether they want to jet off on Barbie's dream plane, run with the storm in Fortnite, or glide along on My Lovely Llama. At littlewoods.com, you'll find all the toys they love, all with inclusive delivery and free returns. Own Christmas. Shop now at littlewoods.com.
I love Black Friday. Busy shops, crazy people, average deals. It's so much fun.
Said no one ever. So be savvy and do Black Friday the easy way with Smarty. Grab a huge 100 gig data SIM for just £17 a month on the Mega Plan. And with no credit checks, speed restrictions or contracts tying you down, you can kick back with the best Black Friday deal around. Now that's Smarty. Search Smarty Mobile to find out more, but hurry, as this deal won't be around for long. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
At Lidl, we're big on all those Christmas parties. The season to be jolly. Try our Party Time Indian snack selection for only $2.99. And our Party Time mac and cheese bites for just $1.19. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always little on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes NI.
If you're planning on driving this weekend, expect delays on the A406 North Circular Road. There'll be road closures between Tottenham and Edmonton from 10 p.m. on Friday the 22nd of November to 5 a.m. on Monday the 25th of November, while we carry out essential maintenance and repairs. All roads in the surrounding area will be extremely busy, so please allow more time for your journey and expect delays in the area. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130. To Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston, Bloomberg 1061. To San Francisco, Bloomberg 960. To the country, Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
From New York City, this is Bloomberg Surveillance. For our audience worldwide, we're live on Bloomberg Radio, 2 hours away from the opening bell. The news you need to know this hour. Equity futures off session lows, still down around about 0.1% on the S&P 500, following a report that China is inviting U.S. negotiators to Beijing for another round of trade negotiations. That's on the heels of Congress passing a bill supporting protesters in Hong Kong. On the corporate front, we have reports that Charles Schwab is in talks to buy TD Ameritrade. That has shares of TD Ameritrade up 24% in early trading. Charles Schwab is higher by 10%. And another deal in the works, sources telling us Tiffany's has entered takeover talks with LVMH. That's after the French company boosted its bid for the jeweler to more than $15 billion. And finally, earnings, shares of Macy's are down 6% in the pre-market after same-store sales fell in the third quarter. The retailer also cutting its profit outlook. A little bit more on some of those stories a little bit later. Let's get you some headlines from elsewhere. Here is Michael Barr.
John, Tom, Lisa, thank you very much. House impeachment investigators will hear today from two key witnesses who grew alarmed by how President Donald Trump and others in the administration were conducting foreign policy in Ukraine. David Holmes, a political counselor at the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, says he was having lunch with Ambassador Gordon Sondland this summer when he heard Trump on the phone asking the envoy about the investigations he wanted from the Ukraine president. 10 candidates with their eyes on the Democratic Party's 2020 presidential nomination gathered in Atlanta last night for the fifth debate this election cycle. Senator Bernie Sanders on MSNBC.
I have been committed to the fight against all forms of discrimination, racial discrimination, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, and religious bigotry.
Next month, the debate stage goes down from 10 to 6 candidates. The Senate will vote today on a short-term funding bill to avert a government shutdown. The clock ticks down to an expiration of funding if lawmakers don't act in time. Global news 24 hours a day on air and at TikTok, on Twitter. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg, Jonathan.
Michael Barr.
Lost this season. Close first half. Now the Knicks began the second half with a 15-0 run. They looked like world beaters. Quickly back to reality. Sixers made up most of that deficit before the fourth quarter, then took control. Philly won 109-104. Moral victory for Coach David Fizdale.
We went on our run. They came back. They picked up the pressure against us, and they went on their run. And that's just what the game is. It's a game of flows. And, you know, like I keep saying, as long as we give ourselves a chance, I'm always going to be proud of our group.
Nets beat Charlotte at Barclays 101-91. Jared Allen, 22 points, 17 rebounds at the Garden. The Rangers beat Washington, who have the NHL's best record. 4-1 pair of goals for the Rangers' big offseason pickup, Artemi Panarin. College hoops, St. John's off the first loss, beat Columbia 83-62. Rutgers over Stephen F. Austin 69-57. Wagner beat St. Peter's 81-77. The last 2 years, the Yankees have paid Jacoby Ellsbury a lot of money to not play, and they'll do it one more year. He'll make $26 million in 2020. But now he's not on the team. The Yanks finally released Ellsbury and the often injured Greg Bird. With the Bloomberg NBC Sports Update, I'm John Stashower.
John Stashower, thank you, sir. John there with the sports. You've had the news. Here's your price action. Equity futures are lower. We are negative around about 0.1%. We are well off session lows, though. Things picking up as reports from the Wall Street Journal suggest that China has invited a U.S. delegation for trade talks in Beijing. That's giving confidence just a little bit of a lift this Thursday morning.
From our world headquarters in New York, good morning, everyone. Bloomberg Surveillance, futures -3, yields flat. I'm going to call yields right now as a nice churn to the market. The Bloomberg NJIT STEM report brought to you by New Jersey Institute of Technology. They are ranked 53rd in the nation out of more than 4,000 universities for mid-career earnings of its graduates. Learn more at njit.edu. Here's John Tucker.
And here's what's making news in science, technology, engineering, and math. Gaze skyward tonight for the alpha monoceratid meteor shower. Some predictions have 400 to 1,000 meteors per hour starting at 11:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Meteor geeks say give yourself about 45 minutes to adjust to the dark. Go out to about 10:35 tonight. Lie flat on your back, look straight up, and don't look at your cell phone as the bright screen will ruin your night vision. Later today, Elon Musk will start his ascent up arguably the toughest hill that Tesla has tried to climb yet, with the debut of a Cybertruck. Musk even cautioned in November of last year that he wasn't even sure if a lot of people would buy the pickup, and in June said the design won't be for everybody. How's that for a sales pitch? And on November 12th, Venice and surrounding islands suffered their worst flood in over half a century. Waters rose over 6 feet above normal level. The mayor of one of the lagoon towns asked for the first ever use of the submersible steel floodgates that have been built for billions of euros to block out the sea, but he could find no one willing and no one authorized to raise the barriers, so the floodwaters came in. Now that is your Bloomberg NJIT STEM report.
John Tucker, thank you so much.
It's one of the best, John. Thanks. It was really good.
Thanks for that endorsement.
No, anytime.
Huge news flow. Venice, I got an email from Venice this morning. It is dry.
Venice, California?
Venice, California. Venice, Italy. It's
they don't
dry,
have
John.
a barrier.
I mean, and then they have to
Who's
really
emailing
scrub
you
it.
from Venice, Italy?
You know.
A hotel somewhere, a bar, letting you know that they're ready.
I think it's a bar.
Modello Sixo. It's there. It's right by the train station. Modello Sixo. It's right there by the train station.
Honestly, if I didn't know you, I'd be highly offended. Carry on.
Five things you need to know to start your day. Brought to you by Portfolio Analysts, powered by Interactive Brokers. Savvy investors use Portfolio Analysts to create a consolidated view of their finances and check the health of their complete financial portfolio. Sign up for free at portfolioanalyst.com. We got like 10 things to talk about. I'm going to be wicked quick here. 96 years old, Henry Kissinger, the key in conversation with Neil Ferguson at the Bloomberg New Economy Forum. Absolutely extraordinary. And John, as usual, Dr. Kissinger, what a phrase. The foothills of a Cold War. That's where we are.
He talked about the relationship between China and the United States and said it makes it, in my view, especially important that a period of relative tension be followed by an explicit effort to understand what the political causes are and a commitment by both sides to try to overcome these. It is far from being too late for that because we are still in the foothills of a Cold War.
Extraordinary quote. Let's go right to the headlines today. John, it's cute. Phase one, phase none. But where are we between those two? I don't know.
Lost between cautious optimism and confusion. The Wall Street Journal reporting just this morning that apparently they've invited the US delegation to Beijing for trade talks. Lisa, we don't know if that's been accepted. What I actually thought was quite interesting in the last 24 hours, seeing the President of the United States next to the Apple CEO and having a conversation with the press.
Yeah.
Just a brief conversation about competing with Samsung.
Yeah.
And President Trump was very clear to say that he wants to make sure that Apple can compete with Samsung. So, Lisa, it's one of two things. Is there a carve-out if there's more tariffs, and is that carve-out just for Apple?
Where are you going?
Or are the tariffs suspended?
Well, yeah, and this is the question.
The issue is he thinks Samsung's a Chinese company.
No, he actually referenced South Korea. No, I'm not sure the president thinks that. He
The
referenced
issue
South
here,
Korea.
there is a larger tension here. President Trump heading into 2020, wanting that economic momentum, having the likes of Apple lobbying directly to the president, saying this trade war is going to hamper our business if you continue with it, and at the same time, not wanting to give in. This is the pressure, and people don't know which way it'll tip.
It was a really interesting moment. I actually think of all the CEOs, Tim Cook of Apple has handled this extremely well. Doing it all behind closed doors with the president, just conversations, leaning on him about trade. I think it's actually been really impressive.
And putting the fancy Mac no one can afford. Hans Zimmer's going to buy two, that's it.
$5,000-$6,000.
It's $6,000 start. You're talking $8,000. They're going to build it. It's a beautiful machine. There will not be one in the Keene household. It won't be under the tree. I want to flip things here. It's so important. You mentioned Tiffany. I missed that. And it's a bidding war in luxury. I mean, they go up 8% on the bidding war. And on the back of that, you got Macy's flat on its back.
LVMH coming in big. Department stores are suffering, Tom. We mentioned the likes of Barney's on this program yesterday. It is so tough. It is brutal.
Describe for our audience again what it was like to be here. Madison Avenue, iconic. It's modern, and there you were in the store.
Thoroughly depressing. The confidence of the staff just lost. They looked demoralized. The ambience of a dollar store. in Barney's. It just felt weird, Tom. Felt really strange.
It felt strange. Lisa, did you go shopping off the depression of John's comment yesterday on Barney's?
There's nothing like depression and comments like that to make me go shopping. I will say this, Saks Fifth Avenue flagship store, down 60% its value in the past 5 years.
This is the building.
I missed
the building, the actual building.
That's amazing.
Just giving you a sense of just what the consequence is of some of the retail apocalypse.
Okay, Luke Kawa of Bloomberg is a genius. He was going on about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Their coach shown the door yesterday. We're not going to go into that right now because I counted in the Telegraph yesterday, John, 7 articles on the Tots. What is it? Just there's nothing else to talk about?
I'm pretty sure no one else would have called it the Tots except you. But yes, Tottenham Hotspur very much in the news at the moment. It's the only thing happening, I guess, ahead of this weekend's games.
Aside of the foothills of Cold War.
West Ham Spurs Saturday morning. He's obsessed with 2 things this morning: Henry Kissinger and the foothills of the Cold War, and the Tots.
And the Tots.
The foothills of Tottenham. That's what they need. The Tots. They need the Beatles to sing this. This is Bloomberg.
Help me if you can. I'm feeling down.
Startups and research universities like New Jersey Institute of Technology are fueling the innovation economy. And few people are better positioned to see what's on the horizon in New Jersey than physicist and state representative Andrew Zwicker.
How technology is transforming our financial sector is revolutionary, and so much of that is in New Jersey. We are innovators when it comes to agriculture, and there is opportunity now for great transformation in how are we going to grow food in an ever-growing population, and how do we turn urban centers into agricultural centers. Autonomous vehicles is another one where we have some of the world's leading experts, and how this will transform how those who are either elderly or are visually impaired or mobilely impaired can start to use autonomous vehicles to transform their lives and have access to transportation they could have never had before.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu/research.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their businesses strategically, yet the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating system, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
I'm Steve Meyer, president of SEI's Investment Manager Services. At SEI, we understand the emerging forces that will define success for asset managers and what firms will need to compete tomorrow. That's why we continually optimize SEI's global operating platform. If your business requires greater agility, our advanced technology, integrated best-in-class systems, and multi-asset expertise can be your catalyst for business transformation.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
With a Bloomberg Business.
Next. Nah. Nope. Boring. If you skip through loads of your TV channels, why are you paying loads of money for them? With TalkTalk TV and Faster Fibre, you can access the nation's favourite TV shows, a world of films and sport, live and on demand, all for £25.95 a month for 18 months. And if you're quick, you'll even get a year of Amazon Prime on us. Search TalkTalk TV. TalkTalk. For everyone. Offerings 5th of December subject to availability. T's and C's apply.
For the independent bookseller who found you that first edition. For the baker who brings the smell of freshly baked bread to your door.
And for the barista who never needs to ask your name.
We've all got a part to play.
Every little tap keeps your high street alive.
And helps your communities thrive.
So if you love where you live, shop small.
Shopping on your local high street can make a big difference. Shop small. Only by American Express.
At Lidl, we're big on all those Christmas parties. The season to be jolly. Try our Party Time Indian snack selection for only $2.99. And our Party Time mac and cheese bites for just $1.19. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
If your ideas challenge the status quo, if you have advised people you had no right advising, if you built companies and lost companies and built them again, if you've been called a pillock, a dreamer, an innovator and a genius, if you thrive in the 11th hour, If you have blown it and completely nailed it in the same day, prepare for your next departure.
Do business right. Travel Virgin Atlantic.
Hey, can't watch the big NBA game because your life's just too busy? I've got some news for you. TuneIn Premium is the answer to all your problems. Hear every home and away game live or on demand everywhere you go. Just search NBA to listen.
This is the TuneIn Newsreel with top news stories from today.
Shares of Target and Lowe's surged to all-time highs on strong quarterly results, which is a relief for investors after yesterday's disappointing reports from Kohl's and Home Depot. Other companies whose shares have hit all-time highs today include Jack Daniels maker Brown-Forman. Its shares started trading back in 1933. Investors are waiting for the minutes from the last Federal Reserve meeting to be released. They come out at 2 Eastern, and they'll come through those for any hint on the direction of interest rates. The FAA says it will not be pressured by Boeing to allow the 737 MAX back in the air before it's ready.
I'm absolutely committed to honoring the memory of those who lost their lives in the Lion Air and Ethiopian Airlines accidents.
Federal Aviation Administration head Steve Dixon speaking at the Dubai
Hear
Air
breaking
Show.
news as it happens with live around-the-clock coverage from CNBC on TuneIn.
News 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok on Twitter. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. This is Bloomberg Radio. Now, a global news update.
The final witnesses in this week's impeachment hearings will begin telling their stories at 9 Eastern Time this morning, as we hear from correspondent Phil Mattingly.
Two witnesses today, Fiona Hill, the former top Russia advisor on the National Security Council, and David Holmes, who obviously became famous less than a week ago when he flew to the United States for a closed-door deposition where he talked about a phone call that he overheard between Ambassador Gordon Sondland and President Trump while in Ukraine.
The House yesterday overwhelmingly passed legislation aimed at protecting human rights in Hong Kong, one day after a unanimous vote for it in the Senate. China is blasting that bill this morning, calling on President Trump to veto it when it reaches his desk today. Democratic presidential candidates mostly aimed their zingers at President Trump rather than each other at last night's Atlanta debate, including Senator Amy Klobuchar.
If you think a woman can't beat Donald Trump, Nancy Pelosi does it every single day.
Stock futures are showing slight losses since yesterday's downward slide on Wall Street. I'm Michael Toscano.
You can't be the only one who spends time examining angles.
This deal, what would it look like?
You're right. The others are here.
Is he doing a good job, you think?
Bloomberg Markets, weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. In U.S. stock index futures, they're struggling for traction this morning as investors weigh the latest trade developments, including a bill from Congress supporting Hong Kong protesters that could complicate a deal with China. We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg. S&P futures down 1.5 points this morning. Dow futures down 15. NASDAQ futures down about 11. The DAX in Germany is down 0.2%. 10-year Treasury down 2/30 seconds, yield 1.75%. Yield on the 2-year 1.59%. NYMEX crude oil up 1/3% or 19 cents at $57.20 a barrel. COMEX gold down 0.25% or $3.90 at $14.70.30 an ounce. The euro 1.1088 against the dollar. British pound 1.2961, and the yen is at 108.57. We are watching shares of Macy's. They're down about 6% in early trading after it cut its annual per share profit outlook for the second time this year, adding to worries that retailers could suffer a weak holiday season. TD Ameritrade is up almost 27%. Charles Schwab buying TD Ameritrade, according to multiple reports. A deal could be announced as soon as today. And Louis Bacon, the founder of More Capital Management, is planning to shut his firm and return capital to investors, according to the Financial Times. The decision comes after years of declining performance at Moore's hedge funds. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom, John, and Lisa.
Karen, thanks so much. A nuance there on the Schwab TD Ameritrade proposal. And the Schwab started off down 2%, and it's now swung around nicely to up 5%, up 6% as well. So, John Farrow, that's a nuance that we've seen over the last hour for American Wall Street.
A potential tie between Charles Schwab and TD Ameritrade. Yeah. And as far as I know, Tom, no comment from either company.
Yeah, I agree, and it's good that you state that. This is a bit odd the way the flow is coming out. I know Fox Biz put a $26 billion statistic on the deal, about 5 times sales.
A tie-up would create a firm with roughly $5 trillion in combined assets.
Yeah, and what's interesting,
some serious AUM.
Jim Cramer's shop, really interestingly, I didn't know this. Schwab's commission trades, it's only 8% of their business. Where TD Ameritrade, it's what you'd expect. It's 23%.
We mentioned this on the program, and Lisa weigh in. It's the banks, the little banks within these brokerages. Yeah, That's how they're making the money.
It's the hope to bring in customers that they can actually make bank on other layers of revenue streams. But here's a question: how much are people willing to pay for that? When do they sort of demand free services there too?
How do you make money from it? That's a big question. Joining us in the studio, I'm really pleased to say, looking forward to this interview. Lale Topcholo joins us now, JOHCM Senior Fund Manager. Good morning to you, Lale.
Good morning.
We won't be talking about TD Ameritrade and Charles Schwab. I can see you bracing for a potential question on that. Don't worry. You know what we will talk about? Bill Dudley's piece out on Bloomberg Opinion in the last 24 hours. Bloomberg Opinion columnist, formerly the New York Fed president, and of course he worked at Goldman with you many, many years ago. Lale, his comments on triple Bs, that's where I want to start. Whenever this conversation comes up, anyone outside of the fixed income world says this is a problem. Everyone inside of the fixed income world that I get to speak to, Lisa and Tom have conversations with as well, say this isn't a problem. Walk me through the issues at play here.
Sure. So, well, first of all, I'm really excited because I'm on the same height as Tom, because usually I feel like a shrimp.
You've got the chair lifted all the way up.
This is exciting.
The issue is I ate so much at lunch yesterday.
You're weighing down the chair a little bit.
Two whole bowls of soup.
Wow. So the facts are correct. The triple Bs as a whole is about half of the U.S. investment grade index. And I think when you look at the largest, and actually came armed with data, if you look at the top 13 issuers within that, the debt numbers are staggering, right? So the top issuers would be something like AT&T, $190 billion of debt. And you go down the numbers. But if you look at these top 13, what's unique about them is, with the exception of the auto and energy, where perhaps you have a little bit more, you have more exposure to external shocks that may not be in your control, everybody else has a very steady revenue stream. So the deleveraging path is there. So I don't want to ignore the fact that they're a large component. I just don't think people should be as alarmed as they should be.
Okay, so then is the risk of some sort of fallout from the corporate debt buildup that Bill Dudley was flagging, is that overstated, or is that risk still there?
Oh, I think the corporate debt build-out, I think the risk is in a different way. So to me, you may know these numbers, but I think it's a staggering number. The U.S. IG and high-yield number is about $8.5 trillion now. It's 2x since the financial crisis. And if you look at the debt in these credit assets that's in daily liquid mutual funds, it's about a little over $1 trillion. Okay? If you look at the U.S. broker balance sheets of daily inventory of how much they're willing to trade and sort of keep on the books, $12 billion. So to me, the mismatch is not necessarily these things are going to get downgraded from triple B to double B, and the high yield is going to be a total, utter disaster. To me, the issue is, how do you, when the selling point comes, how does the plumbing work? Because I don't think that's been tested, and I don't think people understand that.
So what do you think will happen, Lale? How do you think things will function?
Well, it's going to be a price discovery. So it's good in that. I don't know. I mean, I think you may test where your marks are not accurate. It has nothing to do in some cases with the company's health. It's like selling your house, right? Your house is worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. You may think it's $1 million. It depends where the bid comes in.
So I spoke to PIMCO about these kind of issues earlier this year, and they said just in terms of their investment strategy, the way they want to play this, and I'll say this quite simply, and you can add some nuance to it, we want to be liquidity providers, not liquidity demanders. Wait for these kind of gappy moves in credit and then deploy capital. Lale, can you be that patient? Can you wait around for those kind of things?
You certainly can. But look, I mean, it's a pet peeve of mine, and nothing against PIMCO. people always say there's cash on the sidelines. There's no such thing as cash on the sidelines, right? Nobody has bags of cash sitting in. It's sitting in something else, right? And usually,
actually, Tom Keene actually has bags of leveraged cash.
All right, and gold, and gold,
firmly
and gold.
on the sidelines.
That's what he's sitting on.
That's why you're my height today. You're sitting under you is the leveraged cash. Continue.
Oh boy, this conversation is getting dangerous. It's when big fallouts happen, big vol events happen, the markets are connected, right? Everything kind of moves. So you have to sell something to fund something else. And that's where, it becomes a lot difficult. So yes, in concept, can you buy 100 million, 200 million? Sure. Can you be able to deploy billions and immediately be able to take advantage at that time? I don't know.
The solution always is they extend duration and extend maturity. Is that the trap of next year? When in doubt, go from X out to X plus 1, X plus 2. Is that what's going to happen?
I don't know. Duration, I think, is a very tough call. We played around with it a little bit, and we played around in the context of, look, I think we're a little unsure whether the recovery is happening or not, so perhaps we're better off just literally buying 10-year treasuries and just not taking the credit risk as opposed to an IG credit.
There's also something that you were talking about before, which is liquidity risk. You hear a lot of investors saying that they are going into less liquid credit for the extra premium. Embedded in what you're saying in terms of the structural issue, the plumbing issue in credit markets is, I believe, compared to what you said last time you were here, you are not taking liquidity risk, and you'd rather go into stocks than risk your debt at this point based on liquidity. Can you give us a sense of where you are on that now?
Same playbook. We run a daily liquid mutual fund. I mean, I like to think that I will never get a redemption, but that's just not the real world.
So credit funds investing in stocks.
Well, we run a commingled product, so it's not a pure credit, so it's credit and equity. But we'll always run it liquid. And look, there have been numerous evidences of these liquidity issues popping out and funds unwinding over the last several years. We just treat them as they're episodic, and we just blame the manager. The underlying symptom is the same thing. You reach for yield, and you went illiquid. And frankly, I have a hard time when I buy a mutual fund to figure out what they own. You really think people sit there and go through the line items?
Lolly, thank you. As always, thank you for joining us. Lolly Topcholu there, JOHCO.
Don't trip over the leverage cash when you leave.
Fund manager. I thought I'd cut the interview off so Lolly can get away to television and run out of the studio.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
She's actually going to run
a little bit of time.
These are really serious
Lolly,
questions.
thanks.
And to her brilliant point, we really haven't tested the new fixed income market.
Well, and
under
this
crisis.
is important because a lot of people were talking about it a couple of years ago, and then because it didn't happen, because there wasn't some liquidity crisis, everybody forgot it, and people said it's not that big of a deal. Stop being such a worry war. And the question is now, if we actually get a downturn and you actually get that pressure, what has actually changed?
What do you want to talk about over there? We got like 18 things today. The news flow is just extraordinary.
Really muted price action, and I don't think anyone's got any clarity on any of the important things this morning, particularly on the trade discussion and what happens next with that bill that lands on the president's desk supporting Hong Kong protesters.
Muted price action is the death of hedge funds, and there is another one today. Louis Bacon shutting down more capital hedge fund. And John, it's about you need vol to make alpha, and it's been a struggle for everyone for the last number of years. He's one of our great conservationists in America. Louis Bacon, with much to do and, of course, huge success. But it's just something, John, in the business to see more capital.
Think about the kind of markets where this guy really did well. End of the 80s.
Oh, and others.
The market crash of the late 80s. That's a man who profited from those kind of big moves.
Yeah, a 30-year-old hedge fund firm closing down, returning money. It was managing nearly $9 billion at the end of last year, but dramatically cut over the past few years.
And had more capital. They had a leveraged cash under every chair. The future's flat. Dow futures -6. Stay with us. This is Bloomberg.
I love Black Friday. Busy shops, crazy people, average deals. It's so much fun.
Said no one ever. So be savvy and do Black Friday the easy way with Smarty. Grab a huge 100 gig data SIM for just £17 a month on the Mega Plan. And with no credit checks, speed restrictions or contracts tying you down, you can kick back with the best Black Friday deal around. Now that's Smarty. Search Smarty Mobile to find out more, but hurry, as this deal won't be around for long. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
At Lidl, we're big on all those Christmas parties. The season to be jolly. Try our Party Time Indian snack selection for only $2.99. And our Party Time mac and cheese bites for just $1.19. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Surveillance Economics.
I think the U.S. is going in for a couple of years of very, very strong growth.
The deficit by early in the next decade will start to become a real problem for the markets.
Finance.
The consumer is really strong right now.
We don't realize how good times are now.
Investment.
The biggest problem that people have in investing in stocks is that they get out of the market.
It's not supposed to be easy. Anyone who finds it easy is stupid.
Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrow on Bloomberg Radio.
Good morning, everyone. John Farrow and Tom Keene with Lisa Bramwitz. Thrilled you're with us. Huge news flow today. You don't see it on the tape with futures -1, Dow futures -9. Yields were in a little bit. They've now flattish with a 175 in the 10-year. But in headlines on trade out of China, a glimmer there towards phase one. The Bloomberg New Economy Forum in Beijing going on with Dr. Kissinger in conversation with Neil Ferguson a bit ago. Very, very important. Dr. Kissinger talking about the foothills of a Cold War. That gives pause. But in M&A, we see it in Tiffany's. John, help me here with Tiffany's. This is like 120-ish, and now the French say $10 more, right?
When you say the French, you mean LVMH.
Yeah.
Talks
what
on
am I supposed to say, the English?
In talks on a $16 billion offer. Just in case anyone's been away for a month and is coming back and wondering who the French are.
You mean Louis Vuitton?
Tiffany's.
Yeah, it's Louis Vuitton. They do great.
$130 per share, the revised offer.
One standard deviation out.
With the matter.
Okay, one standard deviation out, $148 a share off the recent 4 and 5 3-year trend. They're not there yet as well. And of course, we have Schwab and TD Ameritrade. I'll talk about that and what we can and can't talk about with our next guest in a moment. Bloomberg Surveillance this morning, brought to you by Cohn-Resnick. Transform your tax game. The Cohn-Resnick team can help deal makers develop a winning tax strategy. Visit CohnResnick.com/tax insight. Always we thank Cohn-Resnick for their support. Kathy Jones is with Charles Schwab, and the way the game is played, folks, is if you're on staff, and particularly if you're on research staff, you can't talk about the business. She's looking at her phone through the whole interview.
So don't ask her about the business.
We're not going to ask her about the business.
Okay.
And, of course, the reports this morning of a meeting between Schwab and Ameritrade. We will move on to fixed income, and the host of The Real Yield will drive forward that conversation.
Let's talk about it, Kathy. You have been a lot more conservative about your views in risk assets and fixed income. High yield is getting back out to in and around 400 basis points, just looking at that spread. Kathy, your thoughts on the riskier parts of fixed income at the moment?
Yeah, John, we haven't really changed our view. This, as you know, that spread has been widening, narrowing all year, back and forth. And our concern is, it still hasn't changed, that we've had deteriorating credit quality, much more leverage in the corporate bond space than I think is justified by the rate of growth. So corporate profits are growing much more slowly than corporate leverage, and all that sets us up for, we think, is some sort of a correction in the market. So we're underweight high yield and continue to think that that's just too risky an area to have a lot of exposure right now.
Kathy, this has been an area that people have been hating on for a long time. Junk bonds, not a loved asset class, even as they've rallied. Now, however, Goldman Sachs Asset Management, among others, are starting to kind of tiptoe into even the CCC rated debt, the lowest tier of junk bonds. And I'm wondering, what are they getting wrong in your view?
I'm not really sure why you would be crazy about CCCs, except that they've underperformed the rest of the high yield market. So maybe maybe there's a view that they can take advantage of a convergence between CCCs and the rest of the high yield market in a benign Fed scenario, which is what we have. But it strikes me as the old idea of picking up nickels in front of the steamroller. It's not probably a game that most most people want to play.
What's the trigger here to spur this sell-off here?
Well, I think you could have a couple of things. One could be that the leverage gets to be too much for some of the players, and we start to see some weakening there, and the spreads blow out that way. So more economically driven than anything else, and it might be just sector-based. You know, we've already seen underperformance by energy. If you had another sector that suffered, that could be the case. Or it could be the surprising strength in the economy, which leans people towards viewing that rates might actually go up for safe assets. Now, we don't think that's a real likely scenario, but that could also cause high-yield spreads to move.
Kathy Jones, the charm of what you do and Liz Ann Saunders does every day is you understand flows of retail like no one. What are people actually doing with their money in fixed income? I'm fascinated by this. Are they, you say, well, I want you to buy a 2-year coupon. You're like, really? Or are they all out at 20 plus years trying to make total return?
Well, of course, we have a wide variety of investors. But, a lot of investors have been staying very short duration because, frankly, the yields aren't that attractive to take on duration risk. Yeah. Some have been moving into riskier assets, but I would say it's mostly a pretty much a short duration, high quality story for many investors.
I look at full faith and credit versus the credit market, and I guess you can pick up yield there. How much do I actually pick up if I go into the credit market versus government bonds and paper?
So if you're in investment grade, you're going to pick up 100 basis points or so, 1%.
1 percentage point.
Change. Yeah, in a higher quality investment grade corporate bond. And, the other thing is we have a lot of investors in municipal bonds, and actually after tax for many investors, municipal bonds make more sense than, say,
Okay, great. But what's the movement in muni bonds has been extraordinary this year. I mean, can you state that muni bonds price up, yield down, or price to perfection?
I wouldn't say price to perfection, but clearly valuations, particularly at the short end of the curve, have moved this year. As you go out the curve, valuations have actually improved because we've gotten a little bit more supply.
Let's bring some life to the investment grade part of the market, Kathy. We've had this big discussion over the last couple of days about triple Bs. It's come up so many times over the last couple of years. For anyone outside of fixed income tuning in and interested in the concept, if you look at the market, every security that comes to market will have a credit rating. The line in the sand between investment grade and junk is triple B. And within the triple B complex are big well-known companies like Ford, AT&T, the likes of AB and Bev. And the worry is, Kathy, that in an economic downturn, these guys won't have done the hard work, the balance sheets won't look good, and they'll drop down to junk status. Kathy, just weigh in to that broader debate at the moment.
Well, it's certainly a risk. We know that a lot of those companies have stated that they're focused on maintaining a triple B rating and not getting downgraded into junk status. But, good intentions are just that, good intentions. So if we were to hit a downturn and you would see some of these big companies downgraded, the market for high yield is much smaller. The pool of buyers is much smaller than in the investment grade area. And the worry is if you get one of these big companies that gets downgraded, you have a lot of securities hitting the high yield market, and inevitably there's a big price gap that the whole market would probably feel.
I mean, to put this into English, so we could do this with Lisa Abramowitz, Farm Girl. At Fargo, North Dakota, the 20-year piece out of Fargo, North Dakota is a 4% coupon, priced to 110, yield to worst is 3.3%, and I'm enjoying a 2% coupon right now.
Fargo's reliable. That's probably less risky than other areas. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
No, but that's an example of where it's a 4%.
Lisa feels like she just made an investment call.
It's a 4%.
Do you want to take that back?
I'm not saying that.
Coupon.
No, I'm not going to take it back. 2%. I stand by it. Listen, Kathy,
20 years?
Before we let you go and before we start talking about the Farm Journal, I do want to get your sense on liquidity risk, because this is something that Lali Taptolu was just talking about, that she's really concerned about a breach in the plumbing. Do you buy that? Is that still a concern, even though most people seem to have forgotten?
Well, it's obviously still on the radar, but I think the Fed has made huge moves to address it right now, so I wouldn't be as concerned as we were 6 months or a year ago. it's funny because it all sort of came to a head in September when we had the spike in the repo rate. But this is something people have been talking about since the Fed started to unwind its balance sheet. So I think they've taken huge steps to address it, and I'm much less concerned than I was a while back.
Kathy Jones, great to catch up with you, Charles Schwab, Chief Fixed Income Strategist. Here's the latest on the trade dispute. Remember the soft deadline for these trade talks, the line in the sand, December 15th. That is when the threat of more tariffs on Chinese imports goes on. The South China Morning Post reporting in the last couple of minutes that the United States may delay the December 15th tariffs if a pact is not reached by then. Futures with the smallest of lifts, up 0.1%.
Yeah, and then yield moves as well. I mean, yield was flat, and now we're up 1 basis points, 1.76%.
This is actually meaningful in the sense that if this is the case, that the President Trump is willing to postpone the tariffs, that has been one of the biggest concerns because that would affect the holiday shopping season, and that would actually have a more direct impact.
Do we have an update on the Senate vote? I mean, the House
still
came
done.
Through.
Goes to the President now.
Yep.
It's on his desk.
But do we know what he's going to do?
Yeah, he's going to sign it.
Reportedly set to sign it.
Oh, okay. It
would be really interesting to see how the Chinese react. And Tom, to that point, that's why it's quite interesting that the Chinese are still cautiously optimistic that the delegation,
that's their
the Chinese,
language. That was the direct quote.
that the trade negotiators are looking at inviting the U.S. delegation to Beijing.
Incredible day. We have Schwab Ameritrade News. We have Tiffany LVMH News. We have Macy's News. Stay with us. This is Bloomberg.
We have a lot of news. Let's get some more. Michael Barr here. Michael.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, John. Thank you, Tom. Democratic presidential candidates clashed in the debate over the future of health care, racial inequality, and their ability to build a winning coalition to take on President Trump next year. Last night's face-off came after hours of testimony in the impeachment inquiry and at a critical juncture in the race with less than 3 months before the first votes. Big questions hang over the front runners, and time is running out for lower-tier candidates. The lights are coming back on for tens of thousands of Californians that went dark yesterday. PG&E is restoring power after the latest deliberate blackout to keep power lines from starting fires. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok, on Twitter. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg. Lisa.
Thank you so much. As John was just saying, we are seeing a lift to U.S. futures after reports that the U.S. may postpone putting tariffs on China in order to get a phase one trade deal through beyond December. Meanwhile, Tiffany shares up 3.4%. Macy's down more than 4%. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children, or a disability.
It's so wrong.
Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Why do hedge funds and other alternative managers rely on Pershing? Mark Alderati, a managing director at BNY Mellon's Pershing and head of Prime Services, explains.
In today's environment of market volatility, Pershing's Prime Services is well positioned to support the needs of hedge funds and other alternative investment managers. Whether it's customized financing or securities lending solutions, platform access, or business expansion, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and agile enough to meet your evolving demands. Pershing helps to solve the needs of clients by advocating for them, providing unwavering strength, deep supply, and award-winning service that is at the core of everything we do. Find out what sets Pershing's prime brokerage team apart.
Learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers offered by BNY Mellon's Pershing. Visit our website at Pershing.com. Pershing LLC, member FINRA, NYSE, SIPC.
We just got back from a beautiful city break in Bath. Midweek is the perfect time to beat the crowds. Just an hour and a half by train from London. It was so relaxing. We headed straight for Bath Christmas Market. Oh, I can still smell the roasted chestnuts and mulled wine from the chalets. Next, we donned our skates for Bath on Ice. I'm a natural. Didn't have to hold on to anything or anyone. There's so much to do in Bath. I'm already planning my next trip.
Discover the magic of Bath this Christmas. Plan ahead at visitbath.co.uk/Christmas.
'Tis the season to be hunched over your laptop. Not on our watch. In real life, you can fill your senses and your baskets. Feel all the sights, sounds, lols, and OMGs. Wear laughing emojis on actual smiley faces. Battery's running low. Take the kids to Santa's Grotto. In real life, you can find just the right present using the most advanced search engine in the world. Your eyes. We hunt in real life. Brent Cross, London. Free parking for all sleighs and cars.
For the independent bookseller who found you that first edition.
For the baker who brings the smell of freshly baked bread to your door.
And for the barista who never needs to ask your name.
We've all got a part to play.
Every little tap keeps your high street alive.
And helps your communities thrive.
So if you love where you live, shop small.
Shopping on your local high street can make a big difference. Shop small. Only by American Express.
At Lidl, we're big on all those Christmas parties. The season to be jolly. Try our Party Time Indian snack selection for only $2.99. And our Party Time mac and cheese bites for just $1.19. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
On 3, our unlimited data is actually unlimited, like for reals. That means you can scroll and scroll and scroll through all the Black Friday deals.
Because we have no speed limits, no data caps, and you'll be 5G ready at no extra cost.
Wow, so many savings.
Our Black Friday deals are now on. Save up to £480. Switch to 3, in-store or online. See 3.co.uk/unlimited-data. Savings on selected phones on 24-month contracts. Ends 5th of December. Terms apply.
From Bloomberg Television. Here's Taylor Riggs.
Now, networking products company Netgear hosted its Analyst Day at the NASDAQ on Wednesday. Among the products being highlighted, Netgear's Wi-Fi mesh system and the expansion of Netgear's Mural digital canvas. The latter is a digital canvas that functions as a Wi-Fi enhancer. The company also touted a healthy appetite for its subscription service, which Netgear CEO Patrick Lowe briefed me on.
The subscription is value-added services on top of the hardware. So you buy the hardware first, and then once you buy the hardware, you can choose from a menu of services to really add to the hardware.
How did you find people to participate in this project with you?
Right now, what we do is we have a specific team of what we call content curators in New York City who would actually contact all the content providers initially with the museums and the artists. Now reaching out to the studios and movie studios, and we will continue to expand that. And on the other hand, we have been showcasing our electronic canvas in high-end stores such as Bloomingdale, such as the Beta stores and equivalents.
Hear more interviews like this one on Bloomberg Television, streaming live on Bloomberg.com and on the Bloomberg mobile app, or check your local cable listings. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. It is 8:17 on Wall Street, and futures this morning have reversed their losses and are now trading higher. We go to the First Word breaking news desk for today's morning call. Here's Bill Maloney. Bill, good morning.
And good morning, Karen. That's right. U.S. futures have turned green since the last time we spoke on the latest trade headlines. Dow futures now up 37 points. S&P's gained 5, and NASDAQ futures climbed by 10. The U.S. 10-year yield at 1.76%. Gold is now down 4, and Hong Kong fell 1.6% overnight, while European markets are also trading lower right now. Back in the U.S. on the economic front at 8:30, Philly Fed and initial jobs claims. And at 10 o'clock, leading index and existing home sales. After the bell last night, PayPal will buy online coupon site Honey for $4 billion. And regarding earnings this morning, Macy's cut its forecast and BJ's Wholesale cut its sales views. In other news, Trump is expected to sign the bill supporting the Hong Kong protesters, and the FT reported that Louis Bacon plans to shut down more capital. In deal news, LVMH is said to have offered Tiffany $130 per share, and CNBC said that Schwab is in talks to buy TD Ameritrade. Shares are up 25% in the pre-market. Wrapping things up, Duke Energy was raised to overweight over at Barclays. Live from the First and Breaking News Desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Karen?
All right, Bill, thank you. To hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg, type squawk on your terminal, SQUAWK, and that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom, John, and Lisa.
Karen, thanks so much. Huge news flow today, and again, a lift off Chinese trade headlines. We've gone from negative 2.3 out to plus 4. I don't want to oversell that, but nevertheless, a lift. The path here this morning was a CNBC report of Schwab to take out TD Ameritrade Holding Corporation. And then the path was quick, like today. And then Fox Business put a number on it of $26 billion. But John, I want to be careful here. There's no direct comment from either company still, right?
So far, no. And what's really interesting about these two companies, both in the same world, Tom, but getting their money from different places in the following terms. TD Ameritrade relying on commissions to the extent that it drew 36% of its net revenue from commissions back in 2018 last year. 7%. Schwab.
Two different companies.
Very, very different.
And what's amazing here, and Annie Massa nails this in her story for Bloomberg, is the chart of the market performance versus the lengthy underperformance over the last, I'm going to call it 18 months. Annie Massa joins us now from Bloomberg News. Annie, this is a deal in progress. Can you give us any reporting that this transaction will occur or even could occur today?
Sure. So our deals reporters are confirming that right now. This tie-up between Schwab and Ameritrade is another development, another exciting development, I guess, in this beleaguered brokerage space. It comes on the heels of a wave of announcements last month that Schwab and all of its competitors would move trading commissions to zero. And I think consolidation is just a fact of life for this industry that's been under such severe price pressure.
What is it about the likes of TD Ameritrade that you think Charles Schwab likes, Annie?
Well, TD Ameritrade was one of the companies that was hardest hit by the escalation of the fee wars last month. When all of these different brokerages moved trading commissions to zero, TD Ameritrade got particularly hammered because they actually earned 36% of their revenue, or earned 36% of their net revenue last year from commissions. And that's more than a lot of their competitors. So, speculation was swirling that TD Ameritrade would have to do some kind of a deal. One deal idea that really was out there was that maybe they would acquire E-Trade, but this potential Schwab acquisition of TD Ameritrade came as a bit of a surprise.
What's the shape that this deal is going to take, say, in 5 years?
Well, you would really see a consolidation of the brokerage industry. Both Schwab and TD Ameritrade also serve RIA clients and have big businesses there. So, you might see both on the independent advisor side and on the individual investor side a more consolidated one-stop shop if these two were to, pull off a merger.
Annie, thank you so much. Annie Massa with Bloomberg News this morning. We welcome all of you, particularly on American Wall Street, to what we believe will be an interesting transaction. John, one thing that's occurred here is on the initial announcement off of CNBC, Schwab actually traded down and now trades up. There's been a reevaluation of what would happen here. And to me, the arch question, since they're all bringing down to operating income about 45 cents on the dollar, 43 cents on the dollar, these are profitable businesses at the end of the day. What do they do with dreaded synergy, given the employment disparity with Schwab? I had those numbers before. Schwab with almost 20,000 employees and TD Ameritrade about 9,000 employees.
You just wonder if Charles Schwab thinks they can make TD Ameritrade Ameritrade a little bit more like them and make them less dependent on commission fees, given that commission fees have been in a total race
What's
to
the
the bottom?
synergy factor?
Yeah, this is my question. Is this all just cuts? How many cuts can there be before you end up with a company that doesn't really make as much money and doesn't really necessarily
we talked
have
to Joe
as much
Ricketts.
future?
Let's review this. We talked to Joe Ricketts off his new book, 10 days ago? A guy out of Nebraska invents TD Ameritrade, and it was always sort of like Lyft, Uber. It was always purer than Schwab. This is where you trade, kind of thing. Before Toronto Dominion came in.
Honestly, I think that going forward, the question is, what is the model? Is it going to be all these peripheral functions? Is it going to be these mini banks? And then who are the main clients? Who is it catering to?
Yeah, that's really important, as Annie mentioned there on the RIAs. What division do they go after? John, I'm sorry, I'm curious about FX brokerage in the United Kingdom. Can retail make money? What do you do? Do you trade dollar yen?
You've seen the stats. It's terrifically difficult for retail to make money.
Is it like stocks here where people are day trading FX?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So like they're at home,
trading dollar yen,
dollar Mexico,
trading cable, trading dollar Mex, yeah.
Is it like a 3-month hold, 3-week hold, 3-minute hold?
No, they come in and out for a couple of hours in some cases, Tom.
Like the same thing like here, but just in FX.
Yeah. I just think that's London, though, isn't it? Isn't that just a great sort of example of what London is about compared to, say, New York, just on the retail side? On the retail side, in the UK, there's much more of an interest in the broader macro story than there is, say, with US retail in America.
Although perhaps it's shifting that way with US retail as ETFs take on traction, because ETFs have become more macro calls in our baskets of the stocks and less individual stocks trading.
Equity futures shaping up as follows this morning, and good morning to you all. We're positive 0.1% of the S&P 500. This is
The Bloomberg Market Minute. Macy's is falling before the opening bell. The big department store chain cut its annual per-share profit outlook for the second time this year. Same-store sales at Macy's, which is a key metric for any retailer, fell 3.5% in the third quarter. That was a bigger drop than what analysts were estimating. There could be a blockbuster merger deal in the luxury goods arena. The owner of Louis Vuitton and Tiffany have kicked off talks on an almost $16 billion deal that would see the French company acquiring the storied U.S. jeweler. An earlier offer came in at about $14.5 billion. And Tesla today takes the wraps off of its electric pickup called the Cybertruck. How much will it cost? CEO Elon Musk said earlier he wanted his truck to start at a price of less than $50,000. Futures now slightly higher. A published report from China says the U.S. may delay December tariffs on Chinese goods if a Phase 1 trade deal between the U.S. and China is not reached by then. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients, and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation, #1 in professional development support, and #1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
We just got back from a beautiful city break in Bath. Midweek is the perfect time to beat the crowds. Just an hour and a half by train from London. It was so relaxing. We headed straight for Bath Christmas Market. Oh, I can still smell the roasted chestnuts and mulled wine from the chalets. Next, we donned our skates for Bath on Ice. I'm a natural. Didn't have to hold on to anything. Or anyone. There's so much to do in Bath. I'm already planning my next trip.
Discover the magic of Bath this Christmas. Plan ahead at visitbath.co.uk/Christmas.
'Tis the season to be hunched over your laptop. Not on our watch. In real life, you can fill your senses and your baskets. Feel all the sights, sounds, lols, and OMGs. Wear laughing emojis on actual smiley faces. Battery's running low. Take the kids to Santa's Grotto. In real life, you can find just the right present using the most advanced search engine in the world. Your eyes. We hunt in real life. Brent Cross, London. Free parking for all sleighs and cars.
For the independent bookseller who found you that first edition. For the baker who brings the smell of freshly baked bread to your door.
And for the barista, who never needs to ask your name.
We've all got a part to play.
Every little tap keeps your high street alive.
And helps your communities thrive.
So if you love where you live, shop small.
Shopping on your local high street can make a big difference. Shop small. Only by American Express.
At Lidl, we're big on those little reasons to be jolly. Like our delicious Favorina all-butter mini Stollen bites for just $1.99. And 6 deluxe mince pies for just $1.35. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
If you're planning on driving this weekend, expect delays on the A406 North Circular Road. There'll be road closures between Tottenham and Edmonton from 10 p.m. on Friday the 22nd of November to 5 a.m. on Monday the 25th of November, while we carry out essential maintenance and repairs. All roads in the surrounding area will be extremely busy, so please allow more time for your journey and expect delays in the area. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Christmas is such a magical time of year for little ones. But why should the big kids miss out? This season, take the family to Santa's Wonderlab at West London Audi. You get to test drive the latest Audi models, and the children get to test drive the latest toys with Santa. There's something for the whole family. Visit santaswonderlab.com to find out more about how to register for your place at Santa's Wonderlab this Christmas.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
From New York City, this is Bloomberg Surveillance for our audience worldwide. We're live on Bloomberg Radio. Your economic indicators are brought to you by Commonwealth Financial Network. For the 6th straight time, J.D. Power ranks Commonwealth #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms. Visit commonwealth.com to learn more. Let's get you the economic data, shall we? Here is Vinny Dowd-Giudice.
Jonathan, some data on the labor market. Jobless claims remaining elevated. 227,000 last week, the highest reading since June. Some signs perhaps the labor market is starting to, I don't want to say struggle, what would be the right word? Maybe encountering a little turbulence. Mind you, the reason I don't want to say struggle, because we're still near a half-century low, unemployment at a half-century low. Coming up, existing home sales, 10 o'clock, New York time, economists looking for a rebound. Also, the index of leading economic indicators, October, we could see the 3rd consecutive monthly decline, and I don't know if it's a myth or not, but early in my career, I remember hearing people saying 3 or more consecutive declines in the LEI could be a harbinger of a downturn. Tom, does that sound familiar to you?
You are really dating yourselves.
I know.
You and Dr. Kissinger at 96 years, you're dating yourselves there, way back on LEI. Vinny Dowd-Giudice, thank you so much. I just slammed out on Twitter. You're seeing it first on Bloomberg Radio. The 4-week moving average of jobs claims. No, it's important.
You're seeing it first on radio.
You're seeing it first on radio. You can go to Twitter.
On radio.
Go to where you go to Twitter in your car and you can pick it up first. It's a Bloomberg chart.
Please do not go to Twitter in your car while you're driving.
That's true. Thank you.
Public
Mickey Levy with us, who is truly expert on this. Mickey, it's irrefutable from the bottom of September. The 4-week moving average of claims is drifting higher. The slope has changed. Are we at a point yet where you can say bottom of the claims nirvana and we're getting towards a tougher job market?
I wouldn't use the word tougher. We've been expecting for several years a slowdown in employment gains, and I'm not surprised that there's some modest layoffs, which claims reflect. But Tom, keep in mind, you should consider the level of claims relative to the total labor market, and it's just extraordinary how solid labor markets continue to be.
I mean, the historical perspective of this, folks, and I don't have the chart here to do it now. John, it's absolutely statistically unprecedented how fully employed we are.
And those initial jobless claims over the last couple of years, Tom, haven't been adjusted for population. So if you compare
my
this back
chart
to the
does
70s,
that.
I know it does.
I went to Levy chart.
Tom, I'm just giving your chart a nod. Don't worry, it's okay. We'll look at your chart on radio a little bit later. It's all right. He looks so upset now, doesn't he? It's okay. It's okay. Go on, Mickey.
Can I add something?
Of course you can.
What I'd like to add is real or inflation-adjusted wages are rising very rapidly, and we've just published a study which looks at the pattern of real wages leading into every recession since 1970, and it's extraordinary that every time we've had the onset of recession, real wages are either flat or declining. And right now, it's just the opposite. So what you have is labor markets are solid, real wages are rising, productivity is rising. And one of the reasons why real wages are rising is not just nominal wages rising, but inflation is low, which means several things. One, there's no chance of the Fed raising rates. Monetary policy is easy. And the increase in real wages are lifting consumer purchasing power. So the probability, while so many people focus on the yield curve, this is a much better predictor. And right now, green signals on economic expansion.
So, Mickey, help us do something, because I think this exercise is quite important now. Tom Porcelli of RBC came on the programme over the last couple of weeks, and he said we need to be able to draw the distinction between a cyclical peak in a labour market and evidence of full employment. They're two different things with two very different signals. Mickey, what do you see at the moment, and how do you draw that distinction?
Well, I would take... okay, so... are we at a cyclical peak in terms of rate of growth of employment? Probably. It's been rising too rapidly. But one thing I would refer you to is people are coming off of the sidelines and into the labor market, particularly prime age workers, age 25 to 54. And this is what is keeping a lid on nominal wage gains and unit labor costs. So it's really quite favorable. So it shows that the supply of labor is more elastic than all the standard models suggest. Yeah. So we don't just have solid labor markets, but we have very flexible labor markets. That's positive.
Not enough time. Nikki Levy,
thanks, Mickey.
Back in here again, particularly to talk Fed policy. Dr. Levy's with Berenberg Bank. Just too short a time today with lots of news flow going on. Lisa?
I think it's interesting. DataTrek Research, Nick Colas over there, said over the course of this year, we've been tracking 3 states, Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, because we believe the next U.S. recession will start in the American Upper West. So far, he said, their data shows little weakness, except perhaps in Ohio. But I thought that was a really interesting point.
Latest news out on the terminal, Tom. You'll be interested in this one. It crosses the Bloomberg. More capital to return client capital from 3 funds. That has been confirmed. More capital flagship funds to keep running partners' money. Let's be clear on that. Lewis Bacon to participate less in trading activities. These are comments coming in a letter to investors this morning. More capital to return client capital from 3 funds.
Check the date. It's November 21. How many other hedge funds are going to do this through the end of the year would be my point. It's not as much fun as it used to be.
Well, and how many have already done it? My question is some of the funds that might be forced to do so based on a number of... Yes, there's a difference. This is not necessarily that, although he did have an underperformance last year.
Now, Lewis Bacon, and I would point out his conservation efforts. He's like Hank Paulson. Hank Paulson and the birds, the eagles of America, just incredible, persistent philanthropy. Futures up 3, Dow futures up 19. This is Bloomberg. We say good morning.
And now for the news from New York City, here is Michael Barr.
John, Lisa, Tom, thank you very much. House impeachment investigators were here today from 2 key witnesses who grew alarmed by how President Trump and others were conducting foreign policy in Ukraine. David Holmes with the U.S. Embassy in Kiev and Fiona Hill, a former White House national security aide, will testify at public hearings. Democratic presidential candidates clashed in a debate last night over several issues, including the future of health care and racial inequality. After Representative Tulsi Gabbard spoke about corruption in the Democratic Party, Senator Kamala Harris slammed the Congresswoman for being hypocritical.
I think that it's unfortunate that we have someone on the stage who is attempting to be the Democratic nominee for President of the United States, who during the Obama administration spent 4 years full-time on Fox News criticizing President Obama.
10 candidates were on the stage for the MSNBC debate. The House Judiciary Committee approved legislation yesterday that would decriminalize marijuana at the federal level and reassess pot convictions. The measure would expunge convictions and authorize a 5% sales tax on marijuana to help minority communities enter the cannabis business. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg Talk.
Michael Barr, thanks so much. Time now for the Bloomberg NBC Sports Report. Here's John Stashower.
Tom, the Knicks had the good homestand, 2 wins and a close loss, and there was a moment last night in Philadelphia where it looked like they would get an impressive road win. Began the second half with a 15-0 run. They led by 17, but the Sixers are better. They pulled it out, 109-104. Too many three-pointers over David Fizdale's Knicks.
I think all of our guys owned it. That's something in the game that we could control, is getting to those guys and making them put the ball on the floor and making another play. I thought for 3 quarters we really defended them well. But when you can't, this is a team, they're considered contenders. And you just can't let off the gas 1 second or they'll really make you pay.
One of those three-pointers was made by Ben Simmons, who had never made a three-pointer in his career. He'd been 0 for 18. Knicks back at the Garden Saturday for San Antonio. The Nets beat the Hornets at Barclays 101-91. 3 Nets scored 20 or more. Jared Allen, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Taurean Prince. The Nets are home tomorrow for Sacramento. Impressive win for the Young Rangers, 4-1 at the Garden over league-leading Washington. Artemi Panarin earning that big contract. Power play goals in the second and third periods to begin the scoring. Henrik Lundqvist, 30 saves. He's now tied for 5th on the NHL's all-time wins list. Blue Shirts play in Ottawa tomorrow. College hoops battle in New York. St. John's over Columbia, 83-62. Safe to say that Jacoby Ellsbury's signing did not work out for the Yankees. 7 years, $153 million. In 4 seasons, he never hit as high as $275, and the last 2 seasons, he never played at all. Yankees have finally released Ellsbury. They still owe him $26 million. With the Bloomberg NBC Sports Update, I'm John Stashower. Tom?
John, thanks so much. John Farrell, I got to do a surveillance correction. I mean, data here up to and all that. The most, he tweets in from Bronx and said, I just completely screwed up yesterday. I said Bronx.
What do you meant to say?
The Bronx.
Of course.
The Bronx. I didn't know that.
You said Bronx and not
I said
the
Bronx, and I said
I don't remember
Bronx.
That. I don't remember that.
He's a Liverpool fan.
Oh, good.
He's,
Very cool.
He's got way up top. He's got Liverpool. He's loving Liverpool.
Very cool.
Out of Hofstra. And I'm sorry. It's the Bronx. Thanks for listening. In the Bronx.
You'll be apologizing every day. If you
Futures up 2. Dow Futures up 9. This is Bloomberg. Good morning.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their business strategically. Yet, the most competitive managers in the market know, with the right partner and a flexible operating platform, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
Determination and operational strength are both essential factors for growth in asset management. I'm Steve Meyer, President, Head of SEI's Investment Manager Services Division. We know that disruptive forces create opportunities around the world. If you see potential in change, our industry specialists will maximize SEI's integrated platform of data and risk management, global investment operations, compliance support, and investor services to position your asset management business for success. Come grow with us.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
This is your Bloomberg Real Estate Report.
I love Black Friday. Busy shops, crazy people, average deals. It's so much fun.
Said no one ever. So be savvy and do Black Friday the easy way with Smarty. Grab a huge 100 gig data SIM for just £17 a month on the Mega Plan. And with no credit checks, speed restrictions or contracts tying you down, you can kick back with the best Black Friday deal around. Now that's Smarty. Search Smarty Mobile to find out more, but hurry, as this deal won't be around for long. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
At Lidl, we're big on those little reasons to be jolly. Like our delicious Favorina all butter mini Stollen bites for just $1.99. And 6 deluxe mince pies for just $1.35. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
If you're planning on driving this weekend, expect delays on the A406 North Circular Road. There'll be road closures between Tottenham and Edmonton from 10 p.m. on Friday the 22nd of November to 5 a.m. on Monday the 25th of November, while we carry out essential maintenance and repairs. All roads in the surrounding area will be extremely busy, so please allow more time for your journey and expect delays in the area. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
I don't need a Christmas miracle, just a little wow factor.
Fixing up your kitchen for the festive season? Get to B&Q. We've all you need to impress your guests and Santa, from upgrading your lighting or appliances to choosing new taps like the Xanthi Chrome Effect Mixer Tap for just £70. Bring the magic home with B&Q.
Mate, this fan's suspension is rubbish.
Tell me about it.
Even the radio's had it.
I know, but I'd get nothing if I scrapped it.
Actually, you can get at least £2,000 off a new Ford for it.
You're kidding?
With Ford's new for old scrappage scheme, you can get between £2,000 and £6,250 off a new Ford van if you scrap an eligible vehicle with us responsibly. Also, there's 0% APR representative on Ford Acquire. Ford Commercial Vehicles. Backbone of Britain. Search Ford Scrappage. Exclusions apply. Contract and registered by 31st of December 2019 at participating dealers. Agent ownership criteria apply to scrappage vehicle. Subject to status. Free post full credit. Deposit restrictions apply.
Network of news and financial information 24 hours a day. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. This is Bloomberg Radio. Now, a global news update.
Former National Security Advisor Fiona Hill is one of 2 witnesses set to testify before the House impeachment inquiry this morning. Correspondent Manu Raju reads from Hill's opening statement.
She said she respects the work of Congress, but if the president or anyone else impedes or subverts the national security of the United States in order to further domestic political or personal interests, that is more than worthy of your attention. But we must not let domestic politics stop us from defending ourselves against the foreign powers who truly wish us harm.
Also expected to recount how he overheard a phone call by President Trump and Ambassador Gordon Sondland about the status of investigations. David Holmes is set to testify. He's an official at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine. President Trump has tweeted that American hostages Kevin King and Tim Weeks have arrived in Germany. The pair had been held in captivity by the Taliban in Afghanistan. I'm John Trout.
For the latest business analysis, talk to the best.
Tell me about the collaborations.
And listen to the best.
What are the ethical dilemmas?
Bloomberg Business Week, weekday afternoons at 2 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. This update brought to you by Inovalon, a leading provider of cloud-based platforms empowering data-driven healthcare for insurance companies, physicians, pharmacy, and pharmaceutical companies. Inovalon data has a story to tell. Inovalon gives it a voice. Charles Schwab said to be nearing a deal to buy rival TD Ameritrade, uniting 2 of the biggest retail brokerages. The deal would shore up Schwab's leading position among online brokers, creating a $5 trillion giant. Charles Schwab, the chairman and founder of the firm, spoke to Bloomberg Businessweek Radio last month about M&A in the industry.
I think in the industry you're going to see more consolidation, more firms getting together. You just have to have that scale and volume. And so we're prepared to do it if the opportunity arrives, but if not, we're perfectly happy to go it alone.
And U.S. stock index futures, meanwhile, are little change to higher this morning. Stocks are falling in Europe as investors weigh the latest outlook for a trade deal between the U.S. and China. We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg. S&P futures up 2 points. Dow futures up 13. NASDAQ futures up 1. The DAX in Germany's down 0.1%. 10-year Treasury down 3/32. Yield 1.75%. Yield on the 2-year 1.59%. NYMEX crude oil up 0.6% or 35 cents at $57.36 a barrel. COMEX gold down 0.3% or $4.50 at $14.69.80 an ounce. The euro 1.1083 against the dollar, British pound 1.2962, and the yen at 108.59. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. It's 8:48 on Wall Street.
Bloomberg Opinion, informed perspectives, and expert data-driven commentary on breaking news.
Good morning, everyone. John Farrell and Tom Keene with Lisa Abramowitz. One quick story here, John, to get into a really important discussion for global Wall Street. Where were you when? We all play that game over different things, the Madoff scandal, whatever. I can tell you exactly where I was when the derivative scandal hit me between the eyes. I was in the lobby of the Beijing St. Regis Hotel.
Doesn't surprise me.
Reading the Financial Times.
Drinking?
There was a Jillian. No, I was not. It was breakfast. And there... Well, maybe I was.
Exactly.
and then it was 5 o'clock somewhere.
As if breakfast stops that from
Jillian Tett had a small little article in the FT, and in the headline was a thing called CDO squared. And I said, what? And we're sort of kind of like back there again.
Well, how's this for a lead? In Bloomberg Opinion today, investors and strategists in the bond markets rarely have ever come out firmly against their own asset class. Rather, they opt to use language like be selective, move up in credit quality, or clean up portfolios. That comes to you from Brian Chapata. Brian, have things changed?
A little bit. It was really interesting to sort of step back and read some research. I was just in Japan for 2 weeks, not plugged into the markets at all. And all of a sudden you go and look and you see stock markets at record highs, junk bonds are doing great. And then all of a sudden you look at the double B tranches of CLOs and they just got absolutely hammered. 110 basis point rise in yield. Yeah. And all of a sudden people are kind of stepping back and asking, what's happening here?
Okay, what's the difference between what we used to know, a credit default, a CDO rather, and a CLO?
Right, so I mean CLOs have leveraged loans and they're basically pools of those, whereas the CDOs...
So when the IMF talks about the leveraged loan worry, this is what they're talking about.
Right, and what's really interesting is that all of a sudden you start reading these reports that, remember how everyone was talking about all these bad loan covenants, but no one seemed to care? Well, they're kind of coming home to roost now. And we're expecting default rates, in Morgan Stanley's case, say a default rate's going to double next year, which starts to get a little dicey for CLOs because there isn't a tremendously high buffer for some of these lower rated tranches to ultimately take some impairment.
Just to paint a picture here, CLOs buy the majority of the more than $1 trillion U.S. leveraged loan market. So they are a massive source of demand that funds a lot of these smaller or more speculative companies. This market has exploded. A lot of Japanese investors in particular have come in, people looking, and they did make it through the financial crisis. So a lot of people hawk them as being much safer, or at least tested. The top rated
part. And so that's why you have all these big Japanese investors that are buying AAA rated CLOs because they get a little extra yield and they haven't defaulted.
Okay. So what happened in the past month or so that you said was really a big falling out of bed that was a divergence from the rest of the credit market?
Well, I think what this ultimately comes down to is you see, okay, it's a double B tranche, and that's really weird because double B corporate bonds have been doing just fine. Double B leveraged loans have been doing just fine. But you think about what a double B tranche of a CLO is, and it's ultimately the first thing to get hit if a bunch of really poor quality leverage loans, triple C's, get worse and go into default. So effectively, this is another side of the story where nobody in credit wants to be buying the really risky stuff. You've seen triple C corporate bonds underperform wildly this year, and this is kind of the same thing, that the weak links out there are going to ultimately struggle, and you don't want to be exposed in any way.
So is this a sign of bigger distress? Is this a sign in the flaw of the structure here, or is this a buying opportunity?
Well, I think what the big question is whether you think that the diversification of potentially lower rated leveraged loans is going to suffice if that's worth the BB rating of the CLO tranche, because that's ultimately what you're betting on, rather than saying, okay, there's a BB corporate bond. This company is not great, but it's decent. And that is it's kind of a different calculus there, whether you think the diversification benefit is worth it.
I mean, not that they're going to make the sequel to The Big Short, but just one vignette, folks. I have the clearest memories and honor of sitting next to the late Mark Pittman down at Bloomberg News, and literally he would show me the bond research he was doing item by item. So within that, in the legacy of Mark Pittman and others, what is the tranche knowledge we have of a given CLO? We go from a quality tranche to a lesser quality tranche, which is frankly where usually the problems come up, to the garbage tranche, which we're all focused on. And yeah, it's a problem, but not like the better quality. Do we have knowledge of that, or is it a mystery like in the days of Mark Pittman?
Well, I mean, Morgan Stanley did a pretty decent job, I thought, of breaking down the buffer that you need as far as constant default rate. So BBs have an 11.5%, and so the AAAs have 81% default rate that would be needed before they start to take a hit. So AAAs seem pretty safe unless just about every 4 out of 5 leveraged loans ultimately fail.
Not that would happen.
Well, it's possible, I suppose, but it seems extremely unlikely.
Is this like if I take my triple leveraged all cash fund and I loan Lisa $124.32?
Well, I mean, a lot of it's private equity.
Hypothetically, if you were to...
What do you mean it's private equity?
Well, I mean, that's sort of how they finance. It's how they lever up companies, right? They just pile a bunch of loans.
So it's a bank surrogate?
And lever up debt on them. Yeah.
The biggest boon for the leveraged loan industry was avoiding the name junk, because they're basically the junk bond corollary in the loan market, right? I mean, that's the idea here.
Yeah.
It's just basically...
But what are the loans?
It's
You're
just
telling
loans,
me it's
straight
private
corporate
loans?
Well, the upside of loans is that they, in theory, at least, is that they are above unsecured bonds in the
Agreed,
in the structure. So
yeah.
Right. So that's their pitch, right? Is that they, on the one hand, they're not as frequently traded. It's kind of there's not a great secondary market.
We're here with a genius, Brian Chapata. We can get away with this. Brian, what is the underlying of those loans?
What do you mean the underlying?
Well,
cars?
No, it's
rail
not.
cars?
These aren't
commercial jets?
These aren't a special purpose vehicle the way that asset-backed securities are. Those are a special purpose vehicle.
No, the special purpose vehicle is a Bentley that takes me to the office every morning.
That is such a special
what
purpose
is the
vehicle.
underlying of these loans?
I mean, it's the companies ultimately. I mean, it's the companies. They're loaning money, like they're getting loans, and ultimately they have to repay the loans. I mean, it's effectively a corporate credit. It's just a different name.
November's not over yet, and I can tell you this is the most confusing interview I've done all month. And Brian, that's because this world is nuts. I mean, how different is this from a discussion you and I would have had 12 years ago?
I don't know. I mean, I think that loans have always been out there, right? It's just that the way that it's exploded and the way that they've sort of been securitized into these vehicles is different.
I'm going to go David Goldman on you, the giant at Bank of America years ago with Bob Sinch, and that is simply the tranche structure. Which tranche should our audience focus on of CLOs? The below perfect sort of kind of like stuff, or the garbage? Which matters?
I mean, it depends on your risk tolerance, right? I mean, I wrote in June 2018, so like a year and a half ago, about how there was this Barron's article that was talking about how to get double-digit returns in fixed income, and that was by investing in the equity tranches of CLOs.
There's an equity tranche, a kicker, we call that.
Yeah, and it said, mom and pop should maybe be considering this to get double-digit returns, and that's kind of crazy. I mean, equity tranche is going to get impaired. I mean,
come on, that's the first thing that goes.
It's the first thing that goes, and there's basically no buffer there. So,
are you going to go back to Japan, or can we actually talk to you next week?
I mean, I loved the negative interest rates over there, so I don't know. It's hard to say. I'll be here. I'll be here.
So much. Brilliant with Bloomberg Opinion. He's like a drug for the street. You got to read it just to get smarter on. Help me here, Lisa. Is it going to be CLO squareds, derivatives on loans on loans?
But there are synthetic CLOs.
But I will tell you this, listen, in fairness to the asset class, the idea of it is basically you take a bunch of corporate loans and you pool them together, and that's it. It's not that much more complicated.
Oh, man, you sound so 2005.
The problem is that that companies are increasingly only having loans. So the concept of being first in payback and bankruptcy doesn't matter.
Lisa, I sat in the backyard at a barbecue in about 2004 with a disciple of the great Lou Ranieri, who told me the market was safe off a 64th differential. I had another beverage of my choice. Stay with us. That was brilliant. This is Bloomberg.
At Lidl, we're big on all those Christmas parties. The season to be jolly. Try our party time Indian snack selection for only $2.99. And our party time mac and cheese bites for just $1.19. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
On 3, our unlimited data is actually unlimited, like for reals. That means you can scroll and scroll and scroll through all the Black Friday deals.
Because we have no speed limits, no data caps, and you'll be 5G ready at no extra cost.
Wow, so many savings.
Our Black Friday deals are now on. Save up to £480. Switch to 3, in-store or online. See 3.co.uk/unlimited-data. Savings on selected phones on 24-month contracts. Ends 5th of December. Terms apply.
If you're planning on driving this weekend, expect delays on the A406 North Circular Road. There'll be road closures between Tottenham and Edmonton from 10 p.m. on Friday the 22nd of November to 5 a.m. on Monday the 25th of November, while we carry out essential maintenance and repairs. All roads in the surrounding area will be extremely busy, so please allow more time for your journey and expect delays in the area. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Financial capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Surveillance Economics.
American economic power and future depends on trade deals.
In many of these countries, we're still seeing people struggling.
Finance.
We're in this vortex of uncertainty. These big companies, they just sometimes lack focus.
Investment.
The markets have become a little bit too addicted to the Fed.
Timing the market is just so difficult.
Bloomberg Surveillance with Tom Keene and Paul Sweeney on Bloomberg Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Paul Sweeney and Tom Keene, our studios in New York. Francine Lacroix in Beijing, the Bloomberg New Economy Forum. You know, it's going to be like chit-chat on economy. It was much, much more than that. I would attend the Neil Ferguson, Henry Kissinger discussion on a panel. It was absolutely extraordinary to hear Dr. Kissinger speak across nearly 50 years of our politics with China. It was hugely, hugely valuable. With that, tons of corporate news. I'm going to keep this real short because we're going to do a 1-hour David Wilson today. Futures flat, yields a little bit higher, but the backdrop here of a November 21. I mean, David, it's like year ends on us. Let's go. Macy's, Tiffany's, and you, of course, start with the mating of those that are giving it away for free.
Exactly. Call it Takeover Thursday, Tom.
Original. I like that.
You know, we'll see where things are headed. But TD Ameritrade shares are up more than 24%. A person familiar with the matter said the discount broker was near a deal to be bought by rival Charles Schwab. Now, Fox Business, in its reporting, put the price tag at $26 billion.
5 times sales. 5-6 times sales.
Something like that. Anyway, there are a number of other companies being affected by this. TD Ameritrade's controlling shareholder is Toronto Dominion Bank, which is up 1% in U.S. trading. The Bloomberg Radio sponsor, Interactive Brokers, is up 1.5%. Yes. On the other hand, E-Trade Financial down 6.5% in early trading.
Started reporting on this, David, with our team. Schwab went negative 2% on the announcement, and it's climbed every minute now, up about what, 8-9%?
Now it's 10.5.
Okay, there
it's
you go.
It's still moving up.
I guess the message is they're both up.
You bet. I mean, you're talking about consolidating the industry, and I guess shareholders like that idea. Tiffany, which you mentioned, higher by 3%. People familiar with the matter said France's LVMH raised its takeover offer for the jewelry retailer by about 8% to $15.7 billion. Yeah. They also said the two sides are now in talks about a deal.
120 to 130, up 8%. I extrapolated out the 5-year trend, and one standard deviation rich which is $148 per share. We're not there yet.
No, we are not. Tiffany at 127.10 as we speak. PayPal Holdings down 1%. The payment processor agreed to buy the online coupon provider Honey Science for about $4 billion. The deal is PayPal's largest ever. And then you have Bristol-Myers Squibb up 1.5% to close out the takeover Thursday. The drug maker completed its $74 billion purchase of Celgene. Now, we should remember Bristol-Myers gained U.S. approval after agreeing to sell Celgene's psoriasis pill Otezla to Amgen for $13.4 billion. You also mentioned Macy's. It's the most active stock in early trading, down almost 4.5%. The department store chain lowered its fiscal year earnings forecast even after posting an unexpected third quarter profit. Sales at stores open more than a year fell 3.5%. Analysts weren't expecting a decline in the consensus metrics survey. They expected little change or maybe higher. And Nordstrom, by the way, is down 2.5%. Their results are due after today's close.
Is that maybe the ugliest chart on the Bloomberg? I mean, 70 to 14? Is that right?
Something like that. It's at 1440 as we speak. And Macy's is the worst performer in the S&P 500 this year. It's down almost 50%.
We'll do more on this. Extraordinary.
We will. BJ's Wholesale Club down 12.5%. Fiscal third quarter results showed sales at the Warehouse Club chain trailed estimates for the second straight quarter. BJ's cut its full year sales forecast. Now that's consistent with relatively weak results out of Walmart's Sam's Club chain last week. L Brands. Good news is it's up 3.5% in early trading. The retailer's fiscal third quarter results were in line with estimates in a Bloomberg survey. Here's the thing, though. L Brands fell 7.5% yesterday, so it hasn't made back that loss.
One more.
I'll give you 3 for the price of 1.
Good, love
Three
it.
makers of chip production equipment are lower after their ratings were cut to sell at UBS. The firm said it expects sales to slow in the next few quarters in the industry. One of them is KLA, which was cut to sell from buy. That stock's down 3%. Applied Materials down 3%. Lam Research down 2.5%. Both those stocks were lowered to neutral.
David Wilson.
From neutral, I should say.
David Wilson, thank you so much. Paul Sweeney, it is May Day, and our next guest is definitive to speak of Schwab Ameritrade in a day long ago when there was a seismic shift on Wall Street.
Absolutely. Arthur Levitt, former chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Arthur, the deal we've been reporting on this morning, Charles Schwab is nearing a deal to buy TD Ameritrade. $26 billion is the reported purchase price. This is after Charles Schwab essentially cut commissions to zero on a majority of their equity trading. What do you make of what's going on over the last, is it May 75, Tom?
May 175.
May
Arthur
175.
was a young lad.
Yep.
Probably at Ebbets Field watching whoever. But Chairman Levitt, where were you on May 1 of 1975, that seismic day for global Wall Street?
God, I don't remember.
Oh, that's okay. That's a fair answer.
So, Arthur, what do you make of this deal? I mean, it's just amazing that news recently of Charles Schwab cutting commissions to zero, and now consolidation in this online brokerage business. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a absolute positive for both the broker and the customer. I think if you look where we've come from in terms of reducing commissions, increasing transparency, and eliminating much of the complexity that was part of our markets as recently as 5 years ago, we've made massive steps. And I think on the regulatory front as well, we just saw the House approving legislation on Monday to give the Commission more power to claw back investor money lost in securities fraud. So on all fronts, I think we're in a better place now than we've been in some years.
So it appears that, I'm just looking at that you just mentioned that SEC is getting more power to claw back investor losses. Has the SEC, is it part of the SEC's mandate to try to bring more transparency to the market so we can bring in more individual investors into the market?
I think it depends a lot upon the commission, a particular commission, and what their priorities are. Some chairmen and some commissions make understanding markets and transparency in the markets a priority for that commission. And as a result of that, great strides are made in that connection. Other commissions have other priorities that take away from that of instructing investors. My own commission had a division that was exclusively responsible for investor education. That was a major priority with the commission in those days.
Well, Arthur, at this moment, and folks, we are so honored that Chairman Levitt could be with us. This is an 8-year tenure at the SEC. And I will go back to your definitive speech or even speeches on the individual investor of 98-99. Charles Schwab put out the shingle in 1971, and you and I, Arthur, remember the absolute titanic battle over discounted commissions leading 4 years later to 1975. Then we had a battle for years until your efforts with the SEC just to make it cheaper. We make jokes, Arthur, about 7/8 or 1/4 Anaconda copper at 22 3/8. Yeah. Take us back there to what you and Charles Schwab battled the industry on. Give us just one vignette of that.
I remember when we put out a call for bids and we'd get 20 bids coming back at less than an eighth. Those days were when billions of dollars went from the pockets of investors into dealers' hands. That was eliminated with the order handling rules, and dealers make less money and investors make more money as a consequence of that ruling.
Could that revolution happen today?
That's a great question.
It's my only good one of the day, so go with it, Arthur.
I think the relative power of the industry versus investor interest has tilted recently toward the industry.
We'll leave it there. Arthur, we'll leave it. We're going to come back and talk with Arthur Levitt about this. Just because of time, we've got to leave it there today. Truly an historic day for the individual investor. I want to make clear this is a reported merger of Charles Schwab with TD Ameritrade. The word near NEAR is being used as well. It's been, not that it's been misreported, but I just want to be really careful about the sourcing and actually what the companies are talking about. Paul, what an honor to speak to Arthur Levitt on this day. It really unique.
Yeah, to have his perspective, and as you mentioned, for a lot of our listeners probably don't, are aware of that, May 1975, it just changed Wall Street economics just 180 degrees, and as Chairman Levitt said, economics went from Wall Street to the consumer.
I was in school, and I had the clearest memory of having a Jenny Cream meal in my head. Well, no, actually, I don't. Maybe that's just like a guess.
Exactly.
Stay with us worldwide with futures at -2. This is Bloomberg.
Let's get national headlines right now with Michael Barr. Michael.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Tom. The final witnesses in this week's impeachment hearings have stories to tell about how the Trump administration conducted its Ukraine policies. The hearing has already started. An official at the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, David Holmes, is expected to recount today how he overheard a phone call by President Trump about investigations by Ukraine. A national security advisor, Fiona Hill, has told lawmakers about the White House meeting that touched on investigations. Medicare for all and defeating President Trump were the main topics during last night's Democratic presidential debate in Atlanta. Next month, the debate stage will go from 10 to 6 candidates. The chancellor of Syracuse University says 4 students have been suspended after a verbal assault directed at a black student last week. Global news, 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok, on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg Tom.
Michael Barr, thanks so much. I'm quoted in Ages. BitDog, Bitcoin, 7,800 is the quote. Really on support right now, going back to September, getting back to summer prices. This is Bloomberg.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then go to Babbel.com, download the app, and try it for free. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just go to Babbel.com and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com and try it for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Hey y'all, Jeff Foxworthy here. Now, if you've ever found yourself repeating the same thing over and over for 75 years, you might be Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
That's why I'm filling in for Smokey to switch things up, because there's a lot more to say. And I should know because my grandfather was a firefighter. And one of the things he taught me is that the people that love the outdoors the most are often the ones accidentally starting wildfires, which means always BYOB. No, bring your own bucket to the campfire. And be extra careful with things like burning yard trimmings. Don't just walk away, or chances are you might be starting a wildfire. So for the love of the outdoors, go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Why has Jade... Once in a while, a movie comes along that leaves critics and audiences breathless. That movie is Le Mans 66.
We're gonna beat Ferrari with a Ford.
Are you nuts? Starring Academy Award winners Matt Damon and Christian Bale.
They hate guys like us because we're different.
Don't miss the incredible true story of Ford v Ferrari. Trust me. It's one of the year's must-see films. It's sensational, a triumph.
Together, we're gonna make history.
Le Mans 66.
You're gonna want to see this.
In cinemas and IMAX now.
I love Black Friday. Busy shops, crazy people, average deals. It's so much fun.
Said no one ever. So be savvy and do Black Friday the easy way with Smarty. Grab a huge 100 gig data SIM for just £17 a month on the Mega Plan. And with no credit checks, speed restrictions or contracts tying you down, you can kick back with the best Black Friday deal around. Now that's Smarty. Search Smarty Mobile to find out more, but hurry, as this deal won't be around for long. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
For the independent bookseller who found you that first edition. For the baker who brings the smell of freshly baked bread to your door.
And for the barista who never needs to ask your name.
We've all got a part to play.
Every little tap keeps your high street alive.
And helps your communities thrive.
So if you love where you live, shop small.
Shopping on your local high street can make a big difference. Shop small. Only by American Express.
At Lidl, we're big on those little reasons to be jolly. Like our delicious Favorina all butter mini Stollen bites for just $1.99. And 6 deluxe mince pies for just $1.35. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
Dell celebrates your small business this November with early Black Friday deals. Our biggest Black Friday ever starts right now. Save up to 50% on business tech, including Windows 10 computers, powerful servers, and the latest award-winning monitors, all with free delivery. Call 0800 085 4878 to talk to a Dell advisor today. That's 0800 085 4878. Or visit dell.co.uk/SB deals for Dell's biggest Black Friday ever. Limited time online offer. Hurry while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Influential conversations from Bloomberg Television. Here's Taylor Briggs.
Steve Jang's Kindred Ventures is entering a new phase of its investment strategy. Jang has teamed up with Kanye Macubella to launch a new $56 million fund. Their goal is to work with founders to form new startups as well as early seed stage investing. Joining us now, the man himself, Steve Jang. Talk to me about this new sort of bigger fund, if you will, how it compares to the earlier versions.
Sure. So Kindred Ventures, I started it in 2014 in San Francisco. And it was really a small seed angel fund with just me and some personal capital. Over the years, had gotten lucky backing some really amazing founders, solving some really big problems in transportation, logistics, cryptocurrency, decentralized systems, even sort of looking looking at marketplaces like Postmates and Poshmark and StyleSeat, there was two learnings out of that. One, there's always great seed stage founders looking to bring capital in to speed up on their journey. There's also another situation where we saw, and my partner, who was at a prior venture fund before, saw this as a seed investor himself, was that there are a lot of problems out there that are important to solve out in the world, and we don't want to wait for startups to exist so that we can back them.
Hear more interviews like this one on Bloomberg Television, streaming live on Bloomberg.com and on the Bloomberg mobile app, or check your local cable listings. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow, and the Bloomberg Futures Report brought to you by IBKR and CME Group. The new micro E-mini futures contracts are available at IBKR at the lowest commissions. Learn more at IBKR.com/CME Mini. And U.S. stock index futures are little changed this morning while stocks fall in Europe as investors weigh the latest outlook for a trade deal between the U.S. and China. We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day. On Bloomberg, S&P futures are little changed. Dow futures up 6, NASDAQ futures down 2. 10-year Treasury down 4/30 seconds, yield 1.76%. Yield on the 2-year 1.59%. NYMEX crude oil up 1.25% or 70 cents at 57.71 a barrel. COMEX gold is down about 0.3% or $4.10 at 14.70 an ounce. The euro 1.1076 against the dollar. British pound 1.2956, and the yen this morning at 108.58. And Charles Schwab is said to be nearing a deal to buy rival TD Ameritrade, uniting two of the biggest retail brokerages. TD Ameritrade is up more than 25.5% this morning. Charles Schwab higher as well, up more than 13%. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Tom and Paul.
Karen, thank you so much. Huge news. I got a wonderful note earlier in the week from a gentleman in the far Midwest, the Middle West of the nation, who said, Tom, my high point of your effort is when you speak to Mr. Murphy of Harvard. I thought that was very nice. What we're doing here, of course, is Harvard football. You can hear it in Bloomberg Boston Radio 106.1 FM. We'll tell you about that here in a bit. But it's always a joy to talk to Tim Murphy. And Paul Sweeney, what's great about Coach Murphy is you can have the struggle this team has had from one of the best games in the history of football, college football, of Dartmouth, on to difficult weekends back-to-back, and finally out to Yale. Coach Murphy, you have to move on. You're in the heat of recruiting for next year. But tell me what seniors do. Someone like Camden Bone of Granger, Indiana, what do they do when they get to the Yale football game?
Well, for the seniors, the Yale football game is really one of the pinnacle experiences of their Harvard career. And the bottom line for us, it's like any other big rivalry, whether that's Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama. It's really personal. It's all about pride in our team, pride in our program, pride in our school. So it certainly is a big event in their life.
Coach, this is known wide and far simply as the game, Harvard-Yale, Yale-Harvard. Tell us about the Yale team that you're going to go up against Saturday.
Well, fellas, they're clearly playing the best football at this point in the season of anyone in the Ivy League. They had a difficult, big loss to Dartmouth. They got blown out, and ever since then, they've come on and just been a powerhouse. And quite frankly, looking at their last couple of scores, again, clearly playing the best football of any team in our league right now.
So, Coach, on the other side, your Harvard Crimson have been struggling the last few weeks. What's been the key issue holding you guys back?
Well, that's a good question. If I could nail it down, I'd certainly bottle it. But definitely the most challenging season of my career. It's been challenging. We've got a young team. We've played extremely hard. Kids have had a great attitude. We've had great senior leadership with a relatively small senior class. And we've had an opportunity deep into the fourth quarter, right down to the last drive, to win these last four games. And obviously, it's a precedent-setting situation for us to not have been able to do that. So very challenging. The attitude's been great, but very frustrating, whether you're a student-athlete or whether you're a coach. And you can say whatever you want. This is a passion for all of us, passion for the coaches. Playing college football for Harvard is a passion for these kids So they're deeply affected by it, but despite that, their attitude, their energy, their leadership has been just tremendous. And for me, then, it's really all on me because they've given us everything we've had.
I mean, tell us about Peter Graves. Here's a guy, folks. He's taken a light load at Harvard in economics. How do you treat economics majors different than the rest of the thugs that play for you?
Yeah, I guess that's a relative term. But, I mean, the reality is, statistically speaking, we have the strongest academic football team on the planet. Among some other great schools in our league, great schools like Stanford, Vanderbilt, Duke, but we actually have statistically the strongest academic football team on the planet. So whether they're in engineering, whether they're in pre-med, whether they're in economics or anything in between, it's a very challenging load. These kids who come from all walks of life, very, very diverse in terms of socioeconomics, diversity of ethnicity, but regardless, they're not on football scholarships, so they go through the same routine as the Stanford or the Duke kids, but they don't have to do it. They do it strictly for the love of the game, and that's what's so enjoyable about coaching these specific kids.
Tim Murphy, thank you so much. Harvard football coach. Yale, the game, as Paul Sweeney correctly says. You can see the Crimson take on Yale. That Bloomberg 106.1 in Boston. Pregame coverage, that starts Saturday, 11:45 a.m. What is it, like 200,000 people show up?
It's, I tell you, the alumni.
Have you been?
I have been. And the alumni, the passion for the alumni for this particular game.
Are they sober?
Yeah, well, maybe. I'm not sure by 11:45 for the pregame, but it's just extraordinary. You know, people, I don't care how many years they're out of graduated from each of these respective schools. The game brings everybody to Boston and or New Haven every year.
I got a dose of Boulder in Colorado, the vintage Big 8 years. There's one window, I think my freshman year, maybe sophomore year, where Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Colorado for a moment were 1, 2, 3 in the nation.
Yep.
And it's just, it's business. It's different. It's a business where this isn't.
Exactly. As Coach Murphy said, the kids do it really for
now
the love of the game.
Self. Now it's, there's a lot of people on the team they follow. Well, they follow Indiana. Why do they follow Indiana on the surveillance team?
I don't know.
Purdue?
No.
Really?
Yeah. My son's at Penn State, and they are passionate there. Oh, boy.
Yeah. Well, they've got a huge legacy there. But Indiana? Football, hoops. Purdue, hoops. You know, I mean, they wait till the winter.
I think Indiana was ranked at one point before they lost to Penn State, so maybe their football team's turning around. Who knows?
Well, unfortunately, I'll get a briefing tomorrow at 3 a.m. Futures up 1, Dow futures up 12. Again, if you're just joining us, terrific news flow here. We're 6 minutes away from the pricing on Tiffany's, LVMH, the pricing ugly on Macy's, and of course that trade on Global Wall Street, the rumored deal of Schwab buying TD Ameritrade. What a transaction that would be. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. It's kind of hard to tell where the market will go at the open, with stock futures little changed. Crude oil is rising, though, up 1.2% at $57.70 a barrel. It looks like two of the biggest retail brokerages may be getting together. Bloomberg has learned that Charles Schwab is nearing a deal to buy rival TD Ameritrade. If it does close, this deal would create a $5 trillion brokerage giant. The labor market may be softer than previously believed. Economists were expecting a decline in first-time jobless claims last week, but instead they held steady at the highest level since June, and the prior reading was revised upward. The shares of Macy's are losing ground before the opening bell after the department store chain cut its annual per-share profit outlook for the second time this year. Same-store sales, a key metric for retailers, were down 3.5% in the latest quarter, a sharper decline than Macy's expected. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
Startups and research universities like New Jersey Institute of Technology are fueling the innovation economy. And few people are better positioned to see what's on the horizon in New Jersey than physicist and state representative Andrew Zwicker.
How technology is transforming our financial sector is revolutionary, and so much of that is in New Jersey. We are innovators when it comes to agriculture, and there is opportunity now for great transformation in how are we going to grow food in an ever-growing population. And how do we turn urban centers into agricultural centers? Autonomous vehicles is another one where we have some of the world's leading experts, and how this will transform how those who are either elderly or are visually impaired or mobily impaired can start to use autonomous vehicles to transform their lives and have access to transportation they could have never had before.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu/research.
On 3, our unlimited data is actually unlimited, like for reals. That means you can scroll and scroll and scroll through all the Black Friday deals.
Because we have no speed limits, no data caps, and you'll be 5G ready at no extra cost.
Wow, so many savings.
Our Black Friday deals are now on. Save up to £480. Switch to 3, in-store or online. See 3.co.uk/unlimited-data. Savings on selected phones on 24-month contracts. Ends 5th of December. Terms apply.
If you're planning on driving this weekend, expect delays on the A406 North Circular Road. There'll be road closures between Tottenham and Edmonton from 10 p.m. on Friday the 22nd of November to 5 a.m. on Monday the 25th of November, while we carry out essential maintenance and repairs. All roads in the surrounding area will be extremely busy, so please allow more time for your journey and expect delays in the area. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Christmas is such a magical time of year for little ones. But why should the big kids miss out? This season, take the family to Santa's Wonderlab at West London Audi. You get to test drive the latest Audi models, and the children get to test drive the latest toys with Santa. There's something for the whole family. Visit santaswonderlab.com to find out more about how to register for your place at Santa's Wonderlab this Christmas.
Heading for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Bayless. Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
And good morning, I'm Karen Moscow, along with Tom Keene and Paul Sweeney. The opening bell brought to you by SEI. Imagine your asset management firm's operational infrastructure as a competitive advantage. Let SEI show you how at SEIC.com/IMS. And the S&P 500, little changed at the open. It's up a point at 3109. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 3 at 27,825. And the NASDAQ is up 3 as well at 8530. 10-year Treasury down 630 seconds, yield 1.76%. The yield on the 2-year, 1.59%. NYMEX crude oil up 1.25% or 72 cents at 57.73 a barrel. COMEX gold is down 0.3% or $4.60 at 14.6970 an ounce. The euro 1.1075 against the dollar. The yen 108.59. Tom and Paul.
Karen, thanks so much. Based on a careful analysis, Paul Sweeney, I would suggest Snoopy's going to come down to Thanksgiving Day parade a little deflated. I mean, that's my prediction. I mean, I don't know how you link that iconic New York City event of Macy's with what we're witnessing, but Am I right? 70 to 14
for Macy's. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope Snoopy stays elevated.
Poonam Goyal covers all things retail for Bloomberg Intelligence. He joins us on the phone. Poonam, let's talk about this Macy's numbers. Tom, referenced the stock price here. Boy, just give us a sense of what's going on at the company right now.
Yeah, so, their earnings, I'd say negative. Obviously, top line, they were down 3.5% and a little bit better, when you include the licensed stores, but pretty bad considering everything that they have going on, especially with Growth 150, with Backstage, with Story. So it just seems like that the consumers aren't rewarding them for all those initiatives, or that the stores that don't have them are underperforming significantly, which we think the latter is the case.
All right, let's go there. One of the things you've educated me on and our audience historically has been this is an industry, retail, department stores, really overstored. Give us a sense of Macy's. Where's their store count now? Where do you think it needs to go if, in fact, they need to shrink more?
Sure. So if you look at their Growth 150 stores, there's a little over 250 of them, or 50% of the store base. So technically you could question if that's really all they plan to put Growth 150 initiatives in. Is that all they really need? They haven't talked much about store closings. They have come down from where they were historically, but, could another 100 stores be possible? Perhaps. And we expect them to talk more about that at their analyst meeting in February next year.
You're going where I want to go. I mean, I get that Terry Lundgren has driven the ship here and Jeff Jeanette's doing it now, et cetera, et cetera. What are they waiting for? What's the constraint? 70 to 14 to do something? What are they waiting for?
Leases maybe. They have, they're trying to fix the business. Everyone's just trying and they keep trying until I guess they can't try anymore. But they're trying. It's just a hard business. The malls, the traffic is down, and these stores are big stores, so they're not that easy to shop.
But you think they're locked in on leases where they can't go in and readjust or vacate those leases?
It's harder for department stores because they typically pay very little rent, and for the ones that are on mall, they are very long-term leases.
So, Poonam, one of the things I noticed just in a Target and the, some of those other retailers, Walmart, really, really, really strong e-commerce growth, 30, 40% growth. How's Macy's doing on the e-commerce front?
So their e-commerce sales grew, but they were actually a little bit weaker in the quarter, and they blamed that on self-inflicted initiatives and cold weather. They also had a data breach in October, which they didn't talk much about. Digital sales softness is a concern, especially going into holiday. We think their digital sales penetration is about anywhere from 25 to 30%, and it's been growing double digits. Grew, but not as much as we'd like.
So we're going into the holiday season, obviously the key time for the retailers. What is Macy's saying about their expectations for the upcoming holiday season?
They're expecting a more moderated same-store sales drop than what they had in the third quarter because they do have easier comparisons. But that said, they expect the weakness to continue from 3Q. So underlying fundamentals not so great. They cut EPS 28 cents.
What's the ramification if the stock dips below 14 in that late August pricing? I mean, does the share price come into management activity, or are they so hit over the head by the challenges of retail that they really don't care where the stock price is?
I'm sure they care, but what they do with that is to be seen. That said, they are looking at continuing to maintain their investment grade rating.
Okay, I mean, and that's fair, but how does Amazon play into this? I mean, is Amazon part of the discussion, or is it much more than that? I mean, take it broader to Kohl's and the rest of them.
Yeah, I think Amazon is part of the discussion, but the real discussion is other things. Like if you look at just Macy's, the business is an apparel business for the most part. And you think of apparel and you think of women's apparel, there are more options today. So a new theme that we've been talking about as of late is re-commerce. So that's buying used or resale items or even renting.
Whoa, what'd you call it?
Re-commerce?
Oh boy.
Re-commerce. Oh, I'm killing you, Poonam. Next time you darken the door here of the surveillance spaceship, we're going to re-commerce. Are you kidding me? Who do we blame for this phrase? Is this Robert Burke or Vanessa Friedman or someone like that? We're re-commercing?
We are. Look at Rent the Runway. I mean, think about all the people that are renting clothes today. What does that do to the business where you are expected to buy a new dress every time you want to go out? Now you'll rent it. And Macy's, with Bloomingdale's, they too have encroached on the space. They started My List, and that's a rental program of their own, but it's small. And, that's a disruption that we think has been hurting apparel retailers for a long time, but more of them are jumping on that bandwagon to try to capture some of that share.
So I'm looking here at that, it's just a lot of holds, a lot of sells on the stock. The street's, nobody's really supporting this stock. What do you think the street's looking for in terms of a turnaround? What would be a milepost?
Closing more stores. I think we really need to see more store closures, and we need to see a more curated, edited assortments in the stores that they have, perhaps giving up more of the space that they currently have to experience us, to really draw the customer in and make shopping fun again.
Poonam Goyal, thank you so much for joining us. Poonam Goyal, senior retail analyst covering all things retail for Bloomberg Intelligence, joining us on the phone. Tom, I kind of go to your point. I mean, what are they waiting for? It's just, the Amazon stories, we had this for 10 plus years in the marketplace. We know that the industry's, overstored, as Poonam has told us in the past. And it's, you look at some of these retailers and you're like, it's almost like leases be damned. You just gotta just rip the Band-Aid off.
I mean, you rent a dress.
Riley from St. Louis is a big...
Riley does this from St. Louis?
Yes, she does. Rents a runway.
Michael Barr, are they doing this at the Barr household? Are they renting dresses now?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're renting a lot of dresses at the Barr household.
Okay, so I can go with the Bagley Mishka red velvet lace sheath. Talk about Michael Barr, you would pour into that beautifully. It's $495 retail, and you're renting it for $60 to $85.
I can make anything.
And then you
good.
take it back.
And then you take it back, and they clean it or whatever they do. And, how many times do they have to rent it out before they? I've never studied I've never thought through the margins there.
Yeah,
on the Badgley Mishka red velvet lace sheath. How about Nicole Miller, the velvet turtleneck Christmas party cocktail dress, $345 retail.
Yep,
$60 to $70.
Mrs. Keaton,
did you rent it for one day? Don't look at me innocent like that, Michael.
We have to bring Riley in here.
We got to get Riley from St. Louis in here for an interview.
This is like a tux, I guess.
She's walking around in Gucci and Dolce, and she's like massive stuff. I mean, it's sick.
I know. So if you're Macy's, what do you do there?
What do you do?
What do you do?
They can't trust Riley from St. Louis. No question about that.
Your stock goes from 70 to 14 is what happened.
Did you see if she wore Pucci? Winter Pucci? She wore Pucci the other day. I couldn't believe it. That's like a summer thing. Futures negative 32. Oh, Riley's on the phone. Stay with us. This is Bloomberg.
Let's get national headlines right now from Michael Barr. Michael.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Tom. The House impeachment investigators will hear from two key witnesses who grew alarmed by how President Trump was conducting foreign policy in Ukraine. The hearing's going on right now. David Holmes, a political counselor at the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, says he was having lunch with Ambassador Gordon Sondland when he heard Trump on the phone asking the envoy about the investigations he wanted from the Ukrainian president. Holmes said in an earlier closed-door deposition, the colorful exchange was like nothing he had ever seen. Democratic presidential contenders debated issues such as climate change and health care on the Atlanta debate stage last night. After the debate, Andrew Yang spoke to Bloomberg about global data privacy cooperation.
So if you have the U.S., the EU, and Japan building a new set of protocols around how we treat our data, what standards are for artificial intelligence, like what the proper regulations and guidelines are, then you can actually create pressure on other countries to say, look, like if we're going to actually have our data be interoperable and exchange with other countries, particularly like the major Western economies, then we would need to follow certain standards.
Yang speaking to Bloomberg's Kevin Cirilli. Global news 24 hours a day on air and at TikTok on Twitter. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. And Michael Barr, this is Bloomberg Time.
Michael, thanks so much. Correction, surveillance correction. Riley from St. Louis emailing in. No, Tom, they don't do Pucci. But how about the rag and bone plaid Beck coat? $850. You can rent that puppy for $145. It's a deal. This is Bloomberg.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children, or a disability.
It's so wrong.
Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
Why do hedge funds and other alternative managers rely on Pershing? Mark Alderati, a managing director at BNY Mellon's Pershing and head of Prime Services, explains.
In today's environment of market volatility, Pershing's Prime Services is well positioned to support the needs of hedge funds and other alternative investment managers. Whether it's customized financing or securities lending solutions, platform access, or business expansion, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and agile enough to meet your evolving demands. Pershing helps to solve the needs of clients by advocating for them, providing unwavering strength, deep supply, and award-winning service that is at the core of everything we do. Find out what sets Pershing's prime brokerage team apart.
Learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers offered by BNY Mellon's Pershing. Visit our website at Pershing.com. Pershing LLC, member FINRA, NYSE, SIPC.
This is a Bloomberg
We just got back from a beautiful city break in Bath. Midweek is the perfect time to beat the crowds. Just an hour and a half by train from London. It was so relaxing. We headed straight for Bath Christmas Market. Oh, I can still smell the roasted chestnuts and mulled wine from the chalets. We dropped off our Christmas shopping at the hotel. Then it was off to be spellbound at the Theatre Royal Bath. There's so much to do in Bath. I'm already planning my next trip.
Discover the magic of Bath this Christmas. Plan ahead at visitbath.co.uk/Christmas.
For the independent bookseller who found you that first edition. For the baker who brings the smell of freshly baked bread to your door.
And for the barista who never needs to ask your name.
We've all got a part to play.
Every little tap keeps your high street alive.
And helps your communities thrive.
So if you love where you live, shop small.
Shopping on your local high street can make a big difference. Shop small. Only by American Express.
At Lidl, we're big on those little reasons to be jolly. Like our delicious Favorina all butter mini Stollen bites for just $1.99. And 6 deluxe mince pies for just $1.35. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
On 3, our unlimited data is actually unlimited, like for reals. That means you can scroll and scroll and scroll through all the Black Friday deals.
Because we have no speed limits, no data caps, and you'll be 5G ready at no extra cost.
Wow, so many savings.
Our Black Friday deals are now on. Save up to £480. Switch to 3, in-store or online. See 3.co.uk/unlimited-data. Savings on selected phones on 24-month contracts. Ends 5th of December. Terms apply.
If you're planning on driving this weekend, expect delays on the A406 North Circular Road. There'll be road closures between Tottenham and Edmonton from 10 p.m. on Friday the 22nd of November to 5 a.m. on Monday the 25th of November, while we carry out essential maintenance and repairs. All roads in the surrounding area will be extremely busy, so please allow more time for your journey and expect delays in the area. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
News 24 hours a day, on air and at TikTok on Twitter. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. This is Bloomberg Radio. Now, a global news update.
Special report, House impeachment inquiry. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff's opening statement called out President Trump for what Schiff says are schemes.
Trump's schemes stood in contrast to the long-standing bipartisan foreign policy of the United States by undermining military and diplomatic support for a key ally and set back U.S. anti-corruption efforts in Ukraine.
Ranking member Devin Nunes points the finger elsewhere.
It's clear why the Democrats have been forced onto this carousel of accusations. President Trump had good reason to be wary of Ukrainian election meddling against his campaign and of widespread corruption. in that country.
Hearings are taking place for the fifth day on Capitol Hill. A former national security advisor is one of two witnesses set to testify before the impeachment panel today. Fiona Hill is urging GOP lawmakers, quote, not to promote politically driven falsehoods. I'm John Trout.
Deals, courts, and world leaders.
When you served on the National Security Council staff, is this something people modeled?
It's all in Balance of Power with David Weston.
How bad an attack was this?
Weekdays at noon Eastern on Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg, the world is listening. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and TikTok on Twitter. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow, and this update is brought to you by Eisner-Amper. Taxes are one of the certainties of life, but what worked for corporate taxpayers in the past may not work today. Eisner-Amper can help. Visit EisnerAmper.com/tax certainty. And U.S. stocks are edging lower after losses in Europe and Asia as investors